disagree with that.
Ew.
You? What's you about that?
A wet wipe case a bum try to touch me. Ew.
What's
What do you mean
you
what's ill
about?
about that? Liberals are the fucking worst. Liberals are the worst. At least fascists stand on their fascism. Liberals pretend and they fucking cosplay poorly.
You guys
You guys are just sitting here being simps for the fucking corporations, not actually realize that you guys are getting fucked raw with no lube. You guys are the worst kind. You're class traitors. That's all you are.
Yeah. So I mean, I
Aren't
think
they
we have a
just
disagreement.
Republicans with like a pride? You guys are just Republicans
Damn
with a
it!
pride flag on it. We told you to be careful, Geeky.
Okay. So I think there are like meaningful ways in which Democrats differ in economic policy, some of which I think are like better than Republicans.
Yeah.
Like I'm in favor of
Hold on.
a substantial
Hold
welfare
on.
state.
I'm really sorry, non-fun. Like, hold on one second, because I have to make
Okay.
a little announcement. So Kiki got interrupted, or not interrupted, a violation. So they had to be removed. I'm just making that announcement. And Deb, I'm sorry that there were interruptions happening there too, and that I was distracted with that and like not paying attention. So my apologies there.
No, I just like geeky coffee, lady. Yeah, because I am her. Like I am geeky. I'm geeky. It's just a better day for me. Because when she came up and she's going, I was like, I didn't know it was this kind of party. We're good.
Got you. No, I'm super glad you're
I don't
here
feel
though.
hot
So like,
tonight, so I'm super chill. So
no, perfect. I just wanted to acknowledge both those things. So non-fun. I'm also very sorry to have interrupted you during your statement. If you don't mind starting that over so that we can all, including me, like listen in and
Yeah.
yes, and they them pronouns. Did I say she? If I did, I'm really sorry. Shit. Okay.
Yeah.
sorry, geeky.
So I think it's
non-fun. Okay.
a little misleading to say like Democrats are just Republicans with a pride flag or whatever. For one, like I think it is like, I don't know, kind of meaningful. A lot of the social issues that I think a lot of Democrats are just better on. Part of the reason I vote for Democrats is because they are better on abortion. They are better on trans rights and gay rights and such. I think those are very important things. And then two, there are ways in which they meaningfully differ from Republicans' economic policy, some of which I'm even like maybe closer to the Republicans on. Like I'm not in favor of single payer healthcare, for example, but there are many Democrats who are in favor of single payer healthcare, and certainly the majority position of the Democratic Party is at the very least like a public option for healthcare. So like that's a little bit of an unfair comparison. And when I say liberal, I do consider myself generally left leaning, but I am also referring to liberalism in a more classical might not be the right sense, but lowercase l liberal, as in I just care about preserving the republic, preserving individual rights to some degree, things of that nature.
You okay? Like,
And I think there's even within that, by the way, some understanding of like you said, we were getting screwed over by corporations or whatever. I have a disagreement with that, obviously. But I also think that like liberalism is, part of liberalism historically has been some individual right to property. And I think property rights do on the whole create good outcomes. So that's something I would care about as well that falls under liberalism.
So what I heard you describe was a Venn diagram with a sliver of overlap. Like,
Yeah.
like the
Between
tiniest
what,
little
the Democrats and
overlap.
Republicans?
It's basically goggles. No, between like liberals and leftists. Like,
Okay, what's your understanding of
healthcare?
of
Like
leftists?
healthcare. Like that was what you're like. Leftists want covered healthcare, right? Liberals are like, yeah, we believe there should at least be a public option.
No, so
That's
I think
the
so.
sliver of overlap.
I take liberal in the American context. It can refer to two things. One is sort of like the underlying fundamental like ideology or philosophy, in which case I think you could say the majority of at least historically, the majority of both parties have been liberal in that sense. But in the American context, I usually take liberal to mean essentially just Democrats, people left of center, people who vote Democrat, people who are Democrats, the Democratic politicians. And I think it's a little bit unfair to say liberals are just conservatives with a pride flag or whatever, when they do meaningfully differ on, for example, like I said, healthcare. Not only do Republicans oppose single payer healthcare, but they also oppose even a public option. And that's something I might be closer to the mainstream Republican position on even. But they also are opposed to like the welfare state, and I'm closer to Democrats on that.
Right. And today's left-leaning Democrats were centrist Republicans 25, 30 years ago, right? So the MAGA movement has moved Republican. Well, I don't know. How old are you again?
I'm 21.
How many elections have you voted in? Right.
I've only voted in one election,
so
but I have some understanding of, for example, the policies of like Bill Clinton and such, and the Democrats back then.
You don't have an understanding of Ronald Reagan or anything of that era where.
Okay. Was Ronald Reagan pro public option for healthcare?
Why are you still talking?
Yeah, my bad.
Why are you
Continue.
still talking? So to say that today's Democrats are equal to Democrats 30 years ago is absolutely it's not true. It's simply not true. Republicans, if you look back at Republican voting records, what does McCain have in common with MAGA today?
I don't think very much. I think
McCain
MAGA
was a
Republicans
war
have moved significantly kind of to the populist right of where McCain was. So I agree with that. What the claim, unless I'm mistaken, the claim that you made.
No. McCain was behind MAGA from beginning. Trump hated McCain.
McCain was behind MAGA in 2008?
McCain, well, in 2012, when he went to vote for the ACA, he chose the side of the people, the side of the people that would help the most, right? And when he voted down repealing the ACA, and gave his thumbs up sign right before he died, right? Mm-hmm. That sent Trump into a fucking frenzy. Mm-hmm. McCain was a huge war hockey, super right-wing Republican before MAGA came up and said, hold my fucking beer. So if one party has slid that direction, then the other party has also slid that direction to fill the gap. So what Democrats are today were the centrist Republicans of 30 years ago. Leftists are where Democrats were.
I don't think that's the case. So for one, I think the claim that you made, unless I misheard, was that the left-leaning Democrats are equal to the like centrist Republicans of 30 years ago. I don't believe that. That's certainly not the case.
What centrist Republican are you talking about then?
I'm not the one that brought up. You're the one I brought up centrist Republicans 30 years ago, whatever. That's the comparison you initially drew, right?
But you're denying it without knowing who a centrist Republican for 30 years ago, nor what their records were. So that's odd.
I don't know. I have a general understanding of, for example,
but I don't think so. Like, come on.
Okay, so you're the one that brought up the centrist Republicans point. I'm saying the reasons that I disagree with that are I have some general understanding of, for example, the policies that Democrats nowadays supports, and even specific politicians that support certain given policies. And I don't think I could, off the top of my head, name many like 90s era Republicans. But I have some general understanding of at least like some of the things they oppose. Like I know they oppose some of the tax breaks that I think Bill Clinton wanted, for example, but or tax hike, sorry, that Bill Clinton wanted, I believe. But regardless of that, so I think initially you were drawing a comparison of like left-leaning Republican or Democrats. I believe that's what I heard. I don't know, maybe I'm mistaken. Not just like all Democrats, but I think so. You're correct in that. I think MAGA, as I said, I would never deny that like they have moved the Republican Party to like the more populist right. I think they have moved a considerable way towards that since McCain. That's obviously true. I never disagreed with that.
No,
and the Democrats have to some extent become
hang on, I have to stop. Hello. Okay. I have to stop you.
A Big Ten
party.
What do
you mean? But... Just what do you mean that MAGA has moved towards the more populist right? Because that makes absolutely no sense.
So I think MAGA has moved the Republicans to the populist right.
What is the populist right?
the populist right are people who are generally right-leaning, who nonetheless support populist policies that are or engage in like some type of populist anti-elite rhetoric, I would say, and also populist policies that are like anti-elite and also against sort of what conservative people like generally believe. Like JD Vance is big on like a lot of market intervention rhetoric that Republicans used to be against. JD Vance will say like economics is fake. JD Vance will say that he doesn't want the U.S. to be the reserve currency anymore.
The entire administration and supposed direction that party is going in right now is all exactly what they said it wouldn't be. Like, you realize that, right? So like, I don't understand.
This is incoherent.
Like, literally, Republicans are supposed to be the party of small government, yet it's big government making all these overreaching decisions. And they say it's about giving decisions back to the states, yet they're, cutting states off at the knee with other funding. So unless they cooperate with certain federal mandates, they don't get the funding that the states are promised by the federal government. So it's not really leaving things up to the states, is it? Like,
yeah, so I think there are plenty of areas where
guaranteeing a federal movement for abortion, thereby pushing the Dobbs decision completely off of the table, right? The Dobbs decision overturned Roe, and now the federal government's not. We're just going to take it back from the state. So fuck states' rights, fuck small G government.
Like, literally, like, Trump ran on never passing a federal abortion ban, and literally that's where we're at. It's coming.
Okay, so
and
I won't deny that I think plenty of Republicans are hypocritical.
I'm going to make one more point.
Mm-hmm.
All of the transphobic rhetoric in regards to things like sports and other areas, bathrooms, whatever, ultimately it's about sex policing. It's not they're using trans individuals to make it a wider issue of discriminating by sex. Like, they're basically trying to set up justification to discriminate by sex so that they can ultimately remove women from public spaces, from competitions, from the workforce. Literally, that is the goal. It was all in the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025. Do you know anything about the jobs report?
What? I don't like the BLS payrolls reports. I don't know.
Yeah, like the monthly jobs reports that come out.
Yeah, I do know some stuff about them.
Okay, so the July job report.
Why are you giggling?
Yeah, I don't know what's funny.
Just because if you know who I am, that's just a funny question to ask. But
I don't know who the fuck
Nobody
you are.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I know.
Isn't this your first time here? Have you ever seen me before? Like, any of my lives before?
No, not really.
Okay, so if you don't fucking know me, don't expect that I know you, please.
I didn't expect you to know me.
I have more followers than you do.
Yeah, you did, because you're like, oh, if you knew who I was, that would be funny to you.
Yeah,
too. So stop
if
fucking
implies
laughing.
that you don't.
Stop. Yes, stop. But like, why is that something you are laughing at? Because that actually implies that
I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at. So the reason I found it humorous is because I am someone who talks to dudes about economics. I am someone who.
I don't care. I made it pretty clear that like you're not special.
They asked.
So stop
crazy
acting like
they asked.
And stop fucking not taking this seriously, because it is serious. So going back to the jobs report from July of this year, 32,000, like. I believe that the number is 32,000 women lost their job in the workforce, right? Like, exited the workforce last month. 9,000 men entered. So like, there's a 28,000 difference. Like, literally the percentage of women that lost, it was 100% of women losing their jobs last month and no men. Like, from a broad perspective, like statistic standard. Like, yeah. That's fucking, we have not seen numbers like that. That is not a common, like, trajectory. That is abrupt and recent and telling. That's what DEI, like getting rid of DEI, looks like, because white women are the ones who are most likely to benefit from those things. So like, that is alarming. Everybody should be fucking scared if you identify as a woman at all. Like, and I don't think that you understand that.
Okay, so I agree that Republicans are hypocritical, but I think that hypocrisy oftentimes results from precisely the thing I would mention, which is that MAGA has moved the Republican Party into a more populist direction and into a more far-right direction. So think about like the jobs report, even when Trump fired Yeah, so populism,
don't-
I think it primarily is based on like anti-elite rhetoric. Think about how Trump constantly complained
I
about how
don't
the
care about
how
what
the
you
BLS
think.
numbers were
like,
fake.
Is there some sort of academic definition of populist? Because I just I don't
Plenty
understand the way
of
that you're using that.
academics will disagree on the exact definition of populism, but it's something that has
Hold
to do
on,
with like
Kiki,
anti.
do you know what do you know what he's talking about the populist right? They're loading in.
Yeah. Instead
Can I like finish? You guys just spoke for so long. I want to be able to finish like
shut
one
up.
thing.
Yeah,
Shut
for
up.
real. And sorry, hold on. I
You're
do want to.
21 years old, my guy.
Yeah, non fun.
Shut
I
up.
do want to establish some boundaries.
You're
So
not
okay.
special.
Gigi, I would like your perspective here, and then I want to make sure that Deb gets a chance to say anything that they wanted to say. Actually, Deb, you've been listening too. You were
No,
up
it's
here
okay,
longer,
babe.
but like,
You guys
do you
got
have
it.
anything to respond to?
Not yet. I'm waiting
Okay,
for him to
okay,
say something
cool.
that isn't jargony and
I know, right? That nonsense. All right, Kiki, go ahead.
yeah, just it's not saying anything of substance.
So, can you tell me why you believe that this, like, abhorrent racism and all that jazz is the populist stance from Republicans? Can you explain that?
I don't think all the racism is a populist stance necessarily. I think a lot of the racism is just like a far right stance, and I think that is also something MAGA has moved the Republican Party on, is to be more extreme.
No, wait, hang on! My God, are you getting paid by the word?
W.
Are you getting paid by the word?
Yeah.
Are you? Because all I needed to know was a yes or no. My God.
You didn't even ask a yes or no question. You asked,
I don't
can you
need
explain why?
Shut it all the way the fuck up. Shush, 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 shush,
Am I
shush, shush, shush.
Am I crazy?
The belief that you have this
Can we get a word count? Me versus
unique
them so far?
knowledge
Jesus.
on populism and all sorts of other shit. Just because you've read theory does not mean that you know how to apply it to real life.
True.
I need you to understand that. Information literacy and literacy itself are two very different things. So while you may have the knowledge from the books, you don't know how to apply it in real life. As exampled by the fact that are you white? I'm gonna ask, are you white?
Yeah, I'm white.
Are you a cishet man?
Yep.
Cool. What in the hot fuck makes you think that you understand the systems of oppression that we are living under more than women and a person of color?
Yeah, I don't know what claim I made that would tie into that, really.
Your whole idea of, well, MAGA just removed the Republicans into the populist right. No, motherfucker, these people always existed. They are a fringe group. And while, yes, they are a fringe group, they are not represented by the Republicans of the McCain era. They are not represented by the Republicans even of the Reagan era.
That's
they
my
are
point.
not, shush, I'm in the middle of fucking speaking. I'm in the middle of fucking speaking. Like, I don't understand. Like, if my box is lit up, yours should not be. Exactly, Nikki. Fucking fluent in Yamaha.
Oh, thanks for the $5 to Gateway.
So here's the
I
thing.
appreciate it.
While you may have
Welcome back, everyone.
basic
Momentum to
idea,
Hammer.
this upper echelon knowledge of the text,
Please laugh at them more. Laugh at them
reading
so good. I'm
phenon,
begging it.
which
This
is
is
the
so.
joke
This
of
is
your
too
name,
good.
reading
They really hate
marks
it when
and
I
all that
laugh.
jazz, without the knowledge of how to apply it into real life situations, your knowledge means nothing. It means nothing. So while you're sitting here yapping out as many words as you could possibly get, in order to
So many words
try
I've said
to,
so far.
well, I know capitalism. I would like to speak on capitalism. I would like to make my opinions of capitalism known, man who will never
for real.
suffer under it.
I wouldn't even talk about capitalism.
So if you are okay with taking a fucking hot back seat to the people who actually live under the systems of oppression, maybe, just maybe, you will learn something past the fancy fucking words in your book. And this is coming from a person who has several degrees in those fancy ass words in the books. Please, sit the fuck down and learn something, because your 21-year-old self is showing in full display neon signs and everything saying, I have the knowledge, I don't have the life to fucking apply it. That's all I'm hearing. So I need you to take it down a notch.
Kiki, one sec. So, dude, and additionally, when Ash asked you to help her understand that, You could have done a way better job as describing populist and how it meant, right? You went and you continued with more jargon, right? In order for your to be have this conversation, you have to bring your language into a place where it's effective communication. You're yapping. This is an effective communication because we have to keep coming back and going, wait. How does that relate to that, right? So if you want people to understand what you're saying and be able to move a conversation forward, you should probably be less fucking pretentious. Try that. Nobody knows who you are. You can be just your normal self here. If you want to have effective communication, just quit being a dickhead, right?
Yeah.
I explained it to Ash. Populist is appealing to the common man, which in MAGA terms is the poorly educated. Great. That sentence would have cleared the whole fucking thing up. But
Okay.
you're more
So,
interested
I
in
think that-
impressing someone, but certainly not us.
Sure. I mean, that evidence seems to work fine for my point. I just want to, like, if I can just like finish my example. The only
your point there, Neanderthal.
Okay, great. So I think basically the only claim I've made so far is that I think MAGA has moved the Republican Party to a more populist right-wing position. Now, one example I gave of that was something you brought up, some of the BLS payroll reports. So previously, it would have been unthinkable for the president to fire the BLS commissioner, even a Republican president to fire the BLS commissioner, based on the fact that he didn't like the jobs numbers under her. But Trump did that, I think, because one, he appeals to like some type of populist anti-elite rhetoric about how, oh, the job numbers are fake and how the elites are lying to you about them. And two, because he's just like a more far-right authoritarian guy who believes in unitary executive theory and thinks that he has the right to do those things. And that is why he did it, even though it was kind of an established norm that presidents weren't supposed to do that.
So he appeals to something, and what you really should have said there to be effective, right? He appeals to this. He lies to these fucking stupids. Like he doesn't appeal to them. He lies to them, and they believe him because they're the poorly educated, right? So all of these are you're not paid by the word. So now that we know that he lies to them and he loves them dumb, how on earth are we saying that there's any comparison between centrist Republicans? Well, the funniest thing is that you're like, yeah, they're slightly, these Republicans are slightly to the right of the historical, the past Republicans. However, you try to impress you try to hold in there that the leftists and the Democrats today are equal to what they were in the past. And that is so fallacious. You know they're not. They can't be.
No, I don't think I ever made the claim that they were equal to.
If MAGA shifted that hard, my lord, I had to push you into agreeing that those positions had all shifted in time.
I would never say that the Democrats of today are like precisely equivalent to the Democrats of the 1990s or early 2000s. What I would say is I don't think it's the case that Democrats today are like significantly further right than they were back then, or that there's not a big difference between Democrats and Republicans. But I think that like. So I think I had an objection to you saying that Democrats are like just Republicans with a pride flag. And I also had an objection to you saying Democrats are like equivalent to. One of you guys said that almost verbatim,
right?
And an objection to one of you saying that like, Democrats today are like equivalent to the Republicans of the 90s or whatever. I don't think that's the case. I think there are like a few. The Democrats have become a bigger tent party, I think, on both sides though. So it is true that given the rise of MAGA, there are sort of like more centrist independent people who will to some extent cooperate with the Democrats, like Liz Cheney. But at the same time, there's more DSA people in the Democratic Party now, right? There's AOC, there's Zoran Mandami, right? So I think on both sides, we've become like a bigger tent party.
Oh, there she is. Hi, Sean. This lib, is trying to sound like he knows what he's doing. Get him.
You done fucked up, kid. You done fucked up.
Yeah.
Proudly calls himself a liberal.
And also, he thinks we should know who he is, and giggles at it.
I don't.
If you knew who I was. Sean, you there, babe?
Yeah, I'm here. What's happening exactly? I'm sorry.
He's a proud lib who is trying to talk about how the Republicans are more populist right now, which, I mean, he's saying that MAGA pushes the Republicans to populist right, and then he's also saying that the Democrats are exactly the same party as they were 50 years ago.
Not what I said.
Mind you, he also couldn't really define populace right. No matter how many times we asked him what he meant by that.
Well, like, are you trying to convince people to be a lib, or like what is
Well,
your?
basically, it started because I think she looked at my bio and said saw it said lib streamer and said "ew" to that, and I was just asking why, and she said that she thought like liberals were unprincipled and they're just Republicans with a pride flag and things like that. So
It wasn't just about what was in your bio. You've come up here and made several pro-liberal statements.
well, I think those were after you asked, but yeah.
If you don't want to be seen as a lib, don't be a lib.
No, I want to be seen as a lib. I'm just I'm just giving the context in which I made the claims.
What are like the principles of liberalism?
Yeah, so I think liberalism can have a few different meanings. So I think in America, liberalism is often just taken to mean like left of center or Democrat, and but I think more broadly, liberalism, like lowercase l liberalism, is some ideology that has like some emphasis on like the individual rights of people. So freedom from the government to engage in certain speech, engage in certain activities, to own some amount of property is usually taken to be a liberal principle, but I'm not certain it's a necessary one. I think that you probably could have some type of liberal socialism. But in America, liberalism is often just taken to mean like being in support of government welfare programs, being in support of a lax immigration policy, things of those nature.
So no real principles.
I mean, I think so. I think individual rights is some type of principle. I think equality under the law is like a liberal principle.
What kind of individual right?
Killing me.
Yeah, so there's going to be some disagreement.
Right to own property.
That is usually taken to be one. Now, like I said, I'm not. I don't think it's a necessary one. I think it is possible to have like some type of liberal socialism, but that is typically taken to be one. I think like John Locke placed a lot of emphasis on that. So, but regardless of that, I think that you asked like what individual rights, property, the ownership of property is sometimes taken to be one. The ability of individuals to engage in free speech and not be prosecuted by the government for their speech, to have freedom of religion, to be able to practice whatever religion they choose without fear of punishment, a right to some amount of due process, and equality under the law, to not discriminate who gets due process under certain circumstances. Like those are taken to be the rights that we think are worth protecting.
So, the right to own capital and the right to free speech and the right to freedom of religion are the principles of liberalism.
At least some of them, yeah.
Okay. I mean, are those demonstrable?
I mean, I think so. What do you want to? What would demonstrate it to you? Like,
And like, do liberals often like adhere to policies and like advocate for policies that restrict speech or restrict like personal freedom for people to even own capital, even within like a capitalist sense?
sorry, repeat that. Do liberals often support policies that restrict people's ability to do that?
Correct.
I think it's just going to kind of depend on the margin at which you're looking at. So,
Was something. Wow.
If it depends on
did
the
you say?
Yeah, okay.
margin,
well, so what
like
I
if
mean
it
is like,
depends,
I
it's
don't
not a
think all
principle.
liberals take freedom of speech or the freedom to own property to be like an absolute right? I don't take them to
It's
be
not a
that.
principle.
So there will be some Liberals will almost always advocate for some type of restriction on speech in some cases, or some types of restriction on property ownership in some cases, right? A lot of liberals support a fair amount of taxation. A lot of liberals don't think that you should be able to, some liberals don't even think you should be able to engage in hate speech, right? But I think that there's always going to be disagreement amongst liberals, and there's always going to be some margin at which it's not protected. But largely, societies that we would consider liberal have like high scores on indexes that try to report how free the press is in a given country, right?
I want to know what the principles are and if they act upon those principles. So if you say it depends, then it's not a principle.
So I think a principle. Okay. So
it's a baseline. It's a
do you think
baseline to the ideology. It is literally the thing that all liberals agree on. Like a baseline of Marxism is dialectical materialism. A baseline of leftism is anti-capitalism. You can't be a leftist unless you're anti-capitalist. That is the baseline. What is the baseline of liberalism?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be some. I think it to be a protection of individual rights and some amount of.
Hang on there, bud. This is why I said it is an issue when you know the text.
That's also true.
But you don't know how to apply them. This is the difference between knowledge and simply knowing things. You need to know how to apply them. Sean knows the text. She can apply them. You have demonstrated that you can't. So go ahead and answer her question.
Yeah. So I think liberalism is very broad, but I think the protection of individual rights and some amount of democracy are like the baseline underlying principles that in order to be liberal, you have to adhere to.
This is too vague. I need you to get more specific. Like when I say the baseline of something, it needs to be like rather specific. Like dialectical materialism is very specific. Anti-capitalism is very specific. Saying the upholding of some rights is not specific.
Because
Like
there's disagreement amongst
rights.
liberals, and different liberal societies will have different degrees of protections for different amounts of individual rights, but I still think they fall under broadly liberal. I think even your account of like dialectical materialism, even that like analytical Marxists reject, right? So I think even that account fails. And anti-capitalism is not especially specific. There are a lot of different ways you can be anti-capitalist, and people can disagree as to.
No Marxist. Yeah, I get it. You're nervous. No Marxist rejects dialectical materialism.
Okay, so there's a blogger, his name is Tibor Ruder. He was a former analytical Marxist. It is my understanding from reading his account of his transition away from Marxism that when he was an analytical Marxist, he didn't believe in dialectical materialism because the empirical evidence.
He wasn't a fucking Marxist.
Okay, what do you think analytical? Do you think analytical Marxism is not a type of Marxism that just doesn't count?
Correct. It's not.
Okay.
It's just made up bullshit that like YouTube bros came up with. Listen, I don't care about if you got your ideology from YouTube shorts. I want to know what the baseline is, because I can explain to you why dialectical materialism is paramount to Marxism, and you can't have Marxism without dialectical materialism. But I want to go into that. I want to go into what the principles of liberalism are. And you're trying to wiggle away from the principles of liberalism by saying that some dumbass on YouTube said some dumb shit one time. I don't care. Like I very don't care.
Okay,
Like,
well, he's
Vouch
like
calls
a
himself
scholar.
like a leftist.
I think he might still be a professor. I know he was at one point, but
That's cool.
regardless
That's
of that,
cool. That's cool. Scholars and professors can also be dumbasses. Like a professor in college once told me that anarchy is on the right. He was a dumbass. I don't care about none of that. Like the appeal to authority means absolutely nothing to me. I know how to apply the theory. Like historical materialism is a whole thing. Let's just get to the principles of liberalism and stop moving away from that.
yeah, okay, great. So I'm just saying, I think the characterization of it's just YouTube shorts or whatever was just unfair. But regardless of that, so I think terms
it's not
are.
unfair. That's where you
I think-
got it from. It was YouTube shorts. I don't give a fuck if you think it was unfair. It's the truth. Let's go into the principles of liberalism now. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think I take terms to typically mean what the like ordinary usage of them means, how people ordinarily use them. I think we ordinarily describe
the principles of liberalism.
Yeah, I've already listed some, and you said they're too vague, and now I'm trying to justify to you why I think they have to.
Upholding some rights, that's not a principle. Like,
I
that's
said,
not a
yeah, and
specific principle.
upholding. So it is a necessary condition, I would say, for a liberal society to uphold a given amount of individual rights. I think that a principle of liberalism is the protection of individual rights. But there are a bunch of different societies. There are a bunch of different societies that we would describe as liberal societies, like America,
So we're not in a
like
liberal
various
society.
European countries who have differences on how
do you explain
precisely.
slavery in the United States today if we uphold individual rights?
Paid by the word.
Like, how do you explain modern day slavery in the United States if we are a liberal democracy?
Yeah. So I think by that standard, no country would be a liberal democracy, which is going to create an issue on your view. But the reason,
That's
as I understand
your
it, we have
view.
slavery in the U.S. is
That's
because
your view.
there
I
are
just
some
want you to
places that
explain
still
how
allow
we
prison
don't
labor.
uphold. Right, exactly. But I want you to explain how we don't uphold individual rights for the slaves in the United States. But one of the things of liberalism is upholding individual rights. I just want you to give me like there's a conflict there. You
Yeah.
call
So
it a
from the beginning, I
contradiction.
don't think liberals
I
have
need that
taken
to be
individual rights to be
reconciled.
absolute. John Locke described the social contract where
So
we
then
have
it's
to
not a
trade.
principle. So then it's not a principle. I want to know what the principles are, and I want to know if liberals
Okay.
uphold those principles. So since that's not a principle, we're going to throw that out the window. I'm going to ask the question again. What are the principles of liberalism?
So I think that liberals have always acknowledged that no single individual's rights or whatever are going to be absolute, that there are cases where, for example, John Locke described the social contract, how we're always going to have to trade some amount of freedom for security, right? So no liberal is under the misconception that rights are absolute. I think the reason we have prison
I
labor in
don't
the
know
U.S. is
why
because
we're
the
not
13th
talking
Amendment
about the
carved out
principles. I
an
don't know
exception
why
for.
we're not talking about the principles of liberalism, because that's all I ask.
Okay, so again, I think liberal principles would entail things like equality
Hey,
under the law,
remember what-
freedom of religion.
Hey, remember I told you effective communication? This blather is not being effective communicator, right? If you need to bullet point it out, right? 10 words max, bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3. Do it that way. You've now been asked 3 times. Enough. Also, if you see somebody else's fucking box light up, you can step back and wait and continue your thought. You don't need to monologue. Knock it off. You're acting exactly your age right now. Quit doing that.
True. Okay. What do you want me to bullet point off? The principles of liberalism again? Which I feel like I already answered.
Well, you contradict the third
Literally have
views. Unless you let's just do this. Fine. Since you hold those to be principles, just go ahead and reconcile the contradiction.
Yeah, I feel like I've already done that. No liberal is under the perception that any given individual right is absolute.
Okay, excellent. So then it's not a principle. So let's just go ahead and list.
Well, here,
different
would you be
principles
okay
that are
with
actually
me
principles.
saying the principle is, which I don't think is how the term is ordinarily used, but the principle to be just add a like heuristic in there, like we generally ought to protect this right, or something of that nature. Would that be an acceptable principle?
What would make you different from a conservative? Because they generally protect some rights.
That's what I said.
So now I think there's some equivocation here between the distinction that I drew
There is
earlier.
no equivocation. You're being vague. And once you don't get to be vague, and then when I tell you how bad it is that you're being vague and how much it can be confused with you being vague, for you to say it's an equivocation fallacy because you're being vague. Just be specific.
Yeah.
You remember how I
So
told you
I
that
was
dumb
specific
fuck
earlier.
wasn't a Marxist, and I established that there are no Marxists that don't hold to dialectical materialism. And when you said this dumb fuck said that he was a Marxist, and I went, he wasn't, because he had to hold to dialectical materialism. And I can explain why it's paramount, but I don't want to do that because we're talking about the principles of liberalism. So if you say, well, some of these people don't hold to this thing, then it's not a principle of liberalism. What makes them a liberal if they don't hold to the baseline structures of liberalism? Just tell me what the principles are so we can get to it.
Okay, so first you asked what makes me different from a conservative. I wanna address that. So at the very beginning, I was very clear about I think liberal in America oftentimes just means like Democrats or like left of center people. That is different from the fundamental like political philosophy of liberalism. And I think that you were equivocating between those two different things, capital L liberal and lowercase l liberal, when you said what makes you different from a conservative. So what I think many
said that what
conservatives,
makes
although
you
not
different from a conservative because they uphold some rights. They generally uphold some rights. This isn't
yeah,
anything different. If someone were to come to me and say one of the baselines of conservatism is that we generally uphold some rights, and you said one of the baselines of liberalism is we generally uphold some rights, I would ask, what's the difference between you two? That's why I said that, not because I was doing an equivocation fallacy. Again, you get to be vague, and then when I show you how being vague is a bad thing, say that I'm doing an equivocation fallacy. That's just not how those things work. If we let's just do this. Liberalism doesn't have
I think many
principles.
conservatives are fairly characterized
perfectly
as a
fine.
liberal in the lowercase l liberal sense. I think there are a growing group of conservatives that are not fairly characterized as liberal in the lowercase l liberal sense because they tend to be authoritarian. They tend to not respect individual rights, like Trump
No,
doesn't in
liberals
a number
not
of cases.
authoritarian. So liberals don't use authoritarian tactics?
I don't know what you mean by that. I think when I say authoritarian, I mean practices like, for example, trying to act through executive fiat and ignore the will of the Congress and the judiciary, doing things like trying to overturn the results of the election. These are things
Wait,
that Trump have done that I think are
utilizing
authoritarian,
executive
that are not
orders.
classically liberal.
Wait, so what then Obama was a Republican?
I don't.
Wait, what?
Obama was not a Republican.
Okay, so I don't, was he a conservative?
I don't think Obama is fairly characterized as a conservative. No.
But he used executive orders and tried to bypass Congress on many different occasions. What the fuck is the difference between the two? Why are we being vague?
Yeah, so I think that there's obviously going to be degrees to things, and there are going to be some differences in ways in which Obama used executive orders that differ from Trump's use of executive orders. For instance, I'm not aware of any. I'm not aware of any executive order Obama did that goes.
That's
Okay.
not what you said. You said that the Republicans use executive orders and Democrats don't. And then Sean
I did
brings
not
up
say
that
that.
Obama did a ton of executive. Are you
You said
kidding?
that is a principle of conservatism. And I was
No.
asking what makes
I
conservatives
said
different.
an
And I said liberals
authoritarian.
don't
I
use it.
said it's a authoritarian like tactic
This is the
or
difference.
way to
You
use
said that
executive
this is
orders
the
to try
part
to
of-
undermine the will of the other branches. I
So
think that is
Obama-
true.
That's
so
exactly what Obama did.
I don't think so. There might be some executive orders Obama did that you
Stop
could characterize as authoritarian,
Stop thinking. You
but
stop thinking. Stop
Mhm.
it.
There might be.
so when I say I might be, I'm just
Except-
saying I'm not aware of any that I would say sufficiently were enough overreach to reach the threshold where I can consider them like meaningfully authoritarian. But maybe I'm just unaware of something he did. Now, when I think Trump does executive orders
Like Snowden doesn't exist. Like, what are we talking
Like
about?
what?
Like, it's like Snowden doesn't exist. It's like you didn't pay attention to any of the
was that
executive
even
orders that
executive? None of
violated
that was Snowden. I don't
Edward
think.
Snowden exposed executive orders that Obama put on the people to expand surveillance for people's like personal devices.
As
All
I
right, y'all.
understand
Sorry
it,
to
most of that
interrupt.
stuff was in the Patriot
Time
Act,
out.
was
Time
passed
out,
by
everybody, for
Congress.
1 second. Time out, everybody, for 1 second. I have to give a 5-minute countdown. Just saying, I got to end at 8:50 or whatever time that is for you. So 5 minutes, I have to end. But if we can wrap the discussion up,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
then no, it's not you. I had a timeline of whenever my person said they were on their way home, and I just got the text. So just letting everybody know.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you for letting me up here.
Oh, of course, anytime. You're always welcome here.
What I'm getting, thank you. What I'm getting here is that liberalism, the baseline of liberalism, like the principles of liberalism, is special pleading. It's good when we do it. It's bad when they do it, or it's authoritarian when they do it. Maybe not bad. Maybe you see authoritarianism is good. I don't know, but it's good when we do it, and it's perfectly fine when we do it. But when they do it, it's different and it's bad. So that's the principle of liberalism. We good, they bad. That sounds about right. Because that's exactly how liberals act, especially within office.
Also sounds about white.
Wow. So if there was a liberal that didn't do that, they would not be fairly characterized as liberal. That's your position.
By you, they wouldn't. Like you're the one who said that like conservatives are authoritarian, and then your definition of authoritarian were things like utilizing executive orders to bypass the other party's will, which the majority of Republicans
The other party's
didn't
will?
want something. Correct. That's what you said.
I think
right?
I don't think no. I said the wills of the other branches, which could be of the same party, right? Like Trump's Congress is controlled by Republicans.
even worse.
They don't like the tariffs that Trump have imposed. Yet Trump imposes many of them through executive order, anyways, but via declaring like national emergencies. And Congress shot at least some of them down. They voted against the Canadian and the Canadian national emergency that Trump tried to declare.
Yeah, that's even worse.
And this-
But it's go ahead.
In this context, it's a distinction without a difference, right? You quibbled over that one word and ignored all of what Sean was telling you, right? It's bad if they do it. It's good if we do it. You gave no solid principles of liberalism outside of running you're playing double dutch with the line. What do you actually? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Sorry, Sean. I'll just shut up.
No, you're good. The reason why I asked about the principles of
Playing double dutch with the line.
I like that. The reason why I asked what the principles of liberalism were is because, like, I tend to hear liberals like praising liberalism and pretending as if like liberalism is like this advanced thing. Because like when I came in, you were talking about like the advancement of the liberal parties in the United States, of the Democrat Party in the United States. I haven't seen like really any real advancements or any real like motivation of them to change anything. And so that's why
But
I
do
was
you
just
think
like,
that,
I
like,
don't.
the standard of living in America has increased over the past like 50, 30, 100 years
For who?
for the median person?
No.
No.
Like, we had the '08 housing crisis. We had a shutdown in 2020. That was before, like, we had a switch from a bull market to a bear market, which had nothing to do with COVID. It just ended up happening because capitalism relies on booms and busts. We constantly see like corporations taking over different industries and having influence within Congress, regardless of like how many people, like 80% or something like that, people want universal health care, and we still don't have it. None of the candidates want to push for it. So
So I don't think
most
any of those
people
things entail that the
$500
standard of living
revenue.
overall has not gone up over the past 30, 50, 100 years, whatever you want to look at. You know, there were crises in the past, like 2008 was a big recession, obviously, but, you know, despite that, like,
How are
This
you
is
defining
this is
it
my
then?
issue.
can I
This is my
finish
issue
my
with talking to
sentence?
people who are too young to live through it.
No,
No.
you're just yapping. How are you defining standard of living then? Because apparently what Sean gave you doesn't apply.
She didn't give a definition of standard of living. She just gave examples of things that she thought like lowered the standard of living that we had to deal with. So I would define a standard of living
And you're
as
saying
being
no.
being like indexed to the median income, the amount of the amount of goods and services a person can buy in real terms in any given period. I think certain things you might also want to look at are like disability adjusted life years, and those have increased to my understanding in the U.S. as well. Yeah.
The dollar has less buying power. The minimum wage has been stagnant. Housing
so-
prices have been inflated to such a degree that
Non-fun. I
people aren't
need
able to
you.
buy.
I need
Go
you
ahead.
to let people get their points out, please, before you start to say anything. I don't care if it's like anything in ingredients. Like, I don't care. Like, be quiet while somebody else is speaking. It makes the live unbearable for the people who are listening. So, like, please stop. You've been doing it this entire time. If you could just please give some room for other people who are speaking in the like 60 seconds I have left. I'll go a little, like 2 minutes longer than that, but like, for the love of God, go ahead, Deb.
Okay.
No, that right there, dude. Go
Fucking
ahead,
kick
Deb.
him. Kick him. Nah, fuck him. Kick him. That smile in his voice and that fucking behavior. That smile in his voice and
Are
that
you
fucking
fucking
behavior has
kidding
been
me?
since he got here. 21-year-old pissant. Fuck you.
Like, especially when I gentle parent them and explain exactly why we need them to STFU and they still are dicks about it. Like,
My bad. I should have acknowledged. I should have acknowledged what she said. Shit, my bad, guys. Don't say the
Holy
N-word. Do not say the N-word. Okay, continue.
Why did they want to say the N-word?
Nah, no reason.
Do you think that I say it often?
I was just warning you.
Okay, don't worry. You're a good pal. Hold on. Jesus. All right, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, what's up?
All right. Jesus fucking Christ. I don't know why they were talking about you interrupting when they were constantly interrupting you. Like that
I
girl
know.
was in the middle of her. He's like, non-fun. Can you please stop interrupting? I'm like, I'm sorry. What the fuck is going on here? These people are insufferable.
I know, bro. Are you getting paid by the word? I want a word count, okay? I bet I said fewer words than the person who joined like 10 minutes before they kicked me. It did, bro. Like, oh my god.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. And then they couldn't understand, like, you were defining liberalism, and then I do kind of wish I kind of wanted to join because I think I could have offered like a unique perspective, but then it also probably would have hurt you because it would have just called you a conservative,
Yeah.
and then said like all liberals are actually conservatives and they all get the bullet or something like that. So.
I know. And it's crazy. I don't know if you were there when I did it because when they like literally one of the first things we talked about where they said like they asked what liberal means or whatever, and I was like, well, I think there's like what liberal means in the US, which is oftentimes just like Democrat or whatever, and then there's like liberal in the ideological sense, and I think that many conservatives are fairly characterized as liberal in like the more ideological sense, but like they just did it, you know, an hour later
how,
we
like,
get to
you laid
aren't
out
you just a
like this
conservative?
you laid out this whole thing of like all like the aspects of like, you know, like generally respect for like private property and like individual rights, equality before the law, like rule of law, generally having some sort of like democratic representation. Like you went over all of this, and then the guy just says, "So nothing then."
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the actual liberal principle is apparently us good when we do it.
We
they
uphold
bad when they
capital,
do it.
apparently. That's the principles of liberalism is upholding capital and putting down the working class.
Yeah, damn. I don't know what.
I think you try to get there was the law that was a because they were bringing up the like, oh, how can you have like a liberal society with liberal principles if you have to like infringe on someone's individual rights in order to like imprison them. But these are like Marxists, right? So I feel like I wonder like how they would react. Like, are they prison abolitionists? Like, do they think that like in the Marxist society there was no such thing as like a deprivation of your, I guess your, I don't even know how would you call it rights or like materialist dialect, like a deprivation of your materialism as like punishment for breaking like the conduct of society? Like,
well, dialectical materialism is just like a frame.
Oh, yeah, no, I know it's a frame
like,
of reference. Yes. Yeah. So I'm like how did they deal with that, or do they just not and they just like pretend that like it doesn't exist?
I don't know, bro. they didn't want to get into it. She said I could do that. I don't want to get into it though. I don't want to talk about why dialectical materialism is necessary for Marxism, but you know.
What are you gonna do? All right, I gotta go finish this DoorDash order. Have fun out there. Good luck with all this shit. You should
yeah.
What you should be doing is you should link your shit on Destiny's digital ground game, or not like his DGG website. DoorDash.
What do you mean link it on the DGG website? What?
Like you can get embedded on the website. And I'm sure you could ask. And
I mean, I've been embedded before when I was at the UFA
but that
events,
that was like the UFA events, yeah. But like, I'm sure if you ask, they'll like do it. I mean, you're like well known enough, surely.
True.
Be a good vector for growth.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Have fun.
Yeah. Have fun. See you later. Thanks for not saying the N-word. I have to warn people now when I'm gonna call off them when it's not in the stream room. We might do another one. I just want to test out. I finally got stuff that lets me connect my. I got a really cool 2023 Motorola stylus with a cracked screen. And I got a cable that lets me use my microphone, or technically any audio from my PC can be accepted as the mic input now. But I have to there's more adapters I need in order to let me capture my screen with the USB-C wired as opposed to wirelessly. I was doing it over Wi-Fi, which is not that bad. I just don't want to have to deal with connecting it every time, and if the Wi-Fi sucks for a moment, it's going to go down and there's latency. Because if I connect it with my PC right now, because both like the mic input thing and the USB-C cable that it's charging through and monitoring it through are connected to the same computer, it causes whatever fucking hissing noise that I need some isolators for to not, or to fix. No, dear God, no. I love listening to Rob Norton. He's not even this bad. Yeah, I know. I love the TikTok people. I think my idea is I'm gonna set up a. It might be funnier if I didn't link it before I did it, but I'm gonna set up my stream setup in a bathtub, and that's gonna be my first TikTok stream of my own TikTok stream. Where I do accept the people that request stuff and stuff. It's gonna be me in the bathtub with my stream set up. I gotta buy some floaties and a rubber ducky. I think I have rubber duckies, but I need some kid floaties to really sell it. Alcohol in the tub. Oh, tugboats. I'm guessing China. Honestly, halfway through, I would have pulled that SCP article. It pulled up the SCP article instead of paraphrasing. I don't know what SCP article you're talking about. Oh, this is just such insane Dunning-Kruger right now. I can't believe they complain about me interrupting so much. I feel like there were like 2 times when I interrupted it. Like one was like near the end where she said like 2 things. She said like the dollar has lost its value or whatever. Oh, the Stanford is it's like yeah. Man, I should have just done that. But they would have said it's just not right. Liberalism more than one thing. On any close examination, it seems to fracture into a range of related yet somehow competing visions. It is an entry focused on the debates within liberal tradition. 1, we contrast 3 interpretations of liberals' core commitment to liberty. 2, we contrast old and new liberalism. 3, we ask whether liberalism is a comprehensive or political doctrine. 4, we close with questions about the reach of liberalism. Does it apply to all humankind? Must all political communities be liberal? Could a liberal coherently answer this question by saying no? Could a liberal coherently answer this question by saying yes? Yeah, the presumption. I should have. I don't know. I don't take like. As I understand the word principles, okay. If I say like liberalism, like a liberal principle is like equality under law, I don't take that as meaning under all cases there is an absolute equality under the law. I take that as saying that there's like a strong presumption in favor of, or like it is a very important thing that ought be prioritized in a liberal society. Like I don't take it to be a contradiction that we claim to be liberal, but there is at least one case where we are failing to uphold a liberal principle in part with prison labor. A norm? Yeah, I think I appealed to norms as well too a bit, but it could be Japan. It might be like South Korea. It could be. tugboats, man. I don't know. Could be. Maybe it's Panama or some shit. Hey, they don't make them there, but they, I know with cruise ships, they register them there and stuff. I don't know. It might be the same with tugboats. I'm guessing Indonesia. Don't they got ships there? They got like ship scrap yards at least, right? Okay, they got a few. Okay, number seven. Germany. Okay, damn, fuck. India. Damn. India was number 2, actually. Saudi Arabia. Would never have guessed that. Don't know what's going on there. Turkey and Singapore. Would never guess that either. Simple question. If the standard of living has gone down, would they rather live in the past? True. Actually, yeah, I should have asked him that, but I don't. Kill me. Don't you know the dollar has lost all of its value, so... Actually, clearly the standard of living was higher in the past. I got a bit triggered when yesterday I went on a, I guess you can call it I went on a date with someone. I forget how or why she first mentioned it, but she was like, yeah, I saw inflation it has gone up like 200% and minimum wage hasn't gone up at all. And it triggered me a bit. I just said, I did I did say like, well, just by nature of it being the cumulative increase and it being like a rate per year, it's always going to be like cumulatively really high because, you know, 1 year if there's 2% inflation, it's 2% on 100. The next year it's 2% on 102. It's cumulatively, it's just always going to look high over the long run. But the argument is low and expected inflation is better in real terms than at least commodity money. But you could also make the argument for fiat currency. It's better than zero inflation with fiat currency. There are, you know, the George Selgin out there saying that the inflation rate should be less than zero, even with a fiat currency. But aren't fewer people on minimum wage now? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. That's the other issue. That's the other issue with that is that like 1% of workers are making federal minimum wage or less. Now, what I know is shrimp-based VTuber should collab with her. What's up, lady? Welcome back. That's how based. The link yeah, it's 1% now. It's been continuing declining. And then like, I don't know if there's data specifically on this, but a lot of people paid below minimum wage, from my understanding, are like disabled. Like there are certain like exemptions for like if people are disabled, they can get paid like less than minimum wage. Because I know there's that one paper on minimum wage that's like, if I just look up minimum wage disabilities paper, look at that spelling. Wonderful. People with disabilities are disproportionately represented in low-wage work, raising concerns about higher wage floors may reduce their employment opportunities. We examine the effects of state minimum wage increases and state sub-minimum wage terminations on employment outcomes for people with disabilities. Using the American Community Survey data, we find little evidence of minimum wage increases reduce unemployment or labor force participation among people with disabilities, including those with more severe disabilities. While many estimates are statistically imprecise, our confidence intervals generally rule out economically meaningful negative employment effects. This is not the paper I'm thinking of, because the paper I'm thinking of does find negative effects. But it's possible that negative effects like aren't there. I'm not gonna stake out a super strong position on the exact effects of the minimum wage on people with disabilities or whatever. But like, as I understand it, a lot of people sub minimum wage or working like sub minimum wage stuff are disabled and therefore like one, secondary income and like on other types of government benefits are getting transferred for families, and two, might be particularly vulnerable to minimum wage increases. But his paper says maybe not. Did I recommend his paper to you? It's a fun one to cite at Marxist. I don't think so. I haven't seen it before. Why is it telling me to print it? Marxism is a capitalist tool. Oh, based. Marx quote Adam Smith all the time. Don't you know Adam Smith supported the labor theory of value? Don't you know? Don't you know? They won't tell you this one. Alphon is saving the country but refuses to run for office. Also states/cities. Yeah, this is all. If you look at there is a measure of the effective minimum wage that considers that. Fuck, I don't remember who puts it out. It might be, maybe it's CPI or whatever. Oh, it might be this. It might be the Cato Institute. Yeah. This isn't the graph that I've seen before. Or this might be the graph I've seen before. But if you just like weight by state's population, because all the blue states have bigger populations and have raised their minimum wages. It's like the effective minimum wage, considering that, has remained stable there. Got up. So does that as well. If Marx were alive, he would be Malice. If Marx were alive, he'd be Leninist. I'm quite fond of index funds. I'm quite fond of Celeste. What's your thoughts on Josiah unfollowing Destiny after the whole Live and Learn crew meltdown over the past few weeks? Oh, I don't know the specifics of what beef he's had with Josiah. I mean, I don't think Pisco is looking too Semitic. That's my comments. Okay, this is the official non-violent. I don't know. I've barely kept up with the specifics of it or whatever. But I've watched some of the Live and Learn stuff, and I've watched some of the Wick talk to people, and Destiny talk to a few people, and Pisco talk to way too many people or whatever. I don't know, most of it seems silly. I just want to talk about the labor sharing. Oh. This is real, by the way. True information. Andrew Wilson goes off on Candace Owens. Tax reform since 1986 have incentivized firms to restructure from C Corps to S Corps and reclassify wage compensation to profits, along with the rise in non-corporate partnerships and the growing role of stock-based compensation for workers. This accounts for most of the supposed decline in the labor share of income. I can't believe he said this. I can't believe he knows. I think Pisco is being anti-Semitic. I think he's being obtuse, at least in his discussion with Lonerbox. I don't watch a full Lonerbox conversation. Peter was obviously the autistic debate strats. Okay. They're annoying sometimes. They're annoying sometimes. And I also just don't I don't know, maybe he would have responded to this or whatever. Did you see my Andrew Wilson tweet? I don't think so, North. You can link it. I could probably find it. But I don't know, I'm woke, okay, call me woke, but I think if someone says a given thing is racist, they don't necessarily mean, or a given person is racist, they don't necessarily mean that person has interpersonal beliefs about races or people or whatever. They just mean they are referring to some index of its outcomes being racist and it being motivated by historical racial bias, and that's affected even for even for individuals beliefs or whatever. You could have a belief that's not itself bigoted, but you think might be motivated by like bigoted factors or whatever. I'm trying to think of an example. Like there will be like the hardcore Zionist people. I wish I could think of a better example, but like the hardcore Zionist people will claim like it might not be anti-Semitic in and of itself to say something like, I think Israel is like bombing every hospital and starving every last Gazan, or make a claim about like, oh, Israel killed all these people and they mowing the lawn and things of that nature. And their basis for believing that being on like a UN report or whatever, or take like a more specific example that's better. If someone says like, oh, Israel killed like a bunch of police officers who are civilians, and my basis for believing that is like the Goldstone report, right? Well, that belief in and of itself is not anti-Semitic, and maybe even the Goldstone report itself isn't anti-Semitic, but like the ultra-Zionist people would make the claim that like there are like just these biases in the UN that make it such the Goldstone report reports things that are just not accurate about the numbers of police officers who were supposedly civilians that Israel killed. Because it's just not the case that most of the police officers are actually, I don't know if any of the police officers were actually civilians. Hamas, I think, and Islamic Jihad have claimed, if not all of them, most of them. Ryan Pisco never admitted this in discussion of Blunderbox, but then immediately tried to backpedal on it and say it had to be if the action is inherently discriminatory, even if they discussed an example where it wasn't inherently discriminatory. Oh man, this worker is so lazy with the Mexican. It's instead of itself, the statement might not be racist, but with the added context, it can be sure. E.g., a racist joking and saying, "Dog, you can't be. You're being really racist right now." Yeah. Pisco said that he agreed that usage is legit, but walked it back.
I also would just, if I may ask.
Oh, I think I did. I didn't watch it, but I remember seeing this.
The question is that permitted? Just so I also have clarity, since your basis has been evidentiary, you keep saying that you have evidence or like you are following evidence. Which one of the charges against, or all of them, do you think Tyler Robinson is guilty of?
The specific charge?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I think is that Tyler Robinson shot Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, but of the 7 charges that he's being charged.
Yeah, can we list them real quick? I'll tell you exactly which ones. We'll pull them up.
Well, do you know any of the charges he's up for right now?
Yeah, of course. But I want to make sure that we have them listed.
Yeah, but like can you name one? Because my general perspective is that you don't actually care about this case. You're not following the case.
That's the question. You're just not following it enough.
It seems pretty, like if you're going to engage, you're going to say the evidence is overwhelming that Tyler Robinson is guilty. I just think that you should. Can you tell me one
then let's do the
charge
counter.
that
You can really. Yeah, this is a great gotcha.
Yeah, I saw this part of the debate. I did watch the original debate. It is kind of crazy. He didn't know any of that.
You just have to ask me, play clips out of context, put me in the hot seat. So please just answer the question.
This is fair. Name all 7 since you've been following the case.
Okay, sure. You name
because it also seems like he's read. Maybe he didn't read, but someone else has given him stuff from like the charging document, like from the indictment, because I pulled that up at some point.
One.
Yeah, he names all 7.
Which they should list the charges in.
I'm happy to do that. Can you name one?
I think he's been charged with murder.
No, don't worry. I read your title.
I name all 7.
He doesn't even. This is like
name all 7.
And I
can you name all 7.
I can't.
Then do it.
Sure, you don't have
to. Do it. No, do it. I'll count them. Go ahead.
You don't have to put your fingers up.
Okay, I'll name them.
Yeah, sure.
Name them.
The first charge is aggravated murder because that's what carries the death sentence.
So murder.
No, that's not. That is literally not murder.
Okay.
And just people. No, don't. I don't have to do it in a time limit. There's nothing.
Candace Owens is a smart woman. She might be smart in like she's a smart grifter kind of way. She's just indoctrinated. I don't know how much. I think either Candace Owens is smart or she is indoctrinated and a true believer. She might just be smart and be like a smart grifter, or she's like somehow indoctrinated and like crazy and stuff.
Just to explain people the difference.
She's probably the only person that actually killed Kirk.
This at all is because aggravated murder. It's narrowly defined. It carries a death sentence. I'm not going to answer the question.
Okay,
I'm just going to recognize that your strategy of thinking that
she knew it was premeditated. She knew she could get a $300,000 Andrew Wilson debate out of it.
When you try to put a time constraint, it doesn't work, and you'll be better the next time you do
I got it. Give me the other ones.
The more you cut me off, the longer I'll take. Do you want to just wait for me to finish why that's a big difference? So that
No, I
people
just
don't walk
want you
away.
to list the charges.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. You just don't get to pretend there's a time constraint for me to do that.
Well, how long does it take you to list 7 charges?
I'm speaking. You just got to.
It sounds like you're just delaying it because you don't know.
I know all 7 of them.
Then
I'm going to
tell
say
me
again because you're going to get embarrassed. You don't have to rush this. I'm also showing an example of a very flawed debate strategy. I actually
well,
have no
one.
time constraint.
I got one.
Great. The second charge is
where the TikTokers got their strategy from.
Charge of a weapon. The next 2 charges are for obstruction of justice.
Okay.
The next 2 charges are for witness tampering. And the
What's
final
the specific charges though?
that is them. Obstruction of justice, obstruction of justice, witness tampering.
Okay, and there's no other specifics to them.
Well, we can say why he's being charged.
No, just the charges and then 7.
Yeah, see, the bad thing is when you try to be an a-hole and it doesn't work.
What's the 7th?
The last charge is violence in front of a minor.
Okay, got it. So then he's being charged with murder. You just say aggravated murder. That's the distinction. You just want to.
It's a massive. It's like you cannot say murder versus aggravated murder. This gets to the entire crux of why him being up for the death sentence. And I actually find the defense's filing
incredible stuff. Diversity of thought on the right, folks. Okay. Just as the two sides in the Cold War agreed that capitalism and communism were the two alternatives, the two sides in the intellectual great debate agreed on a common framing of questions with the defenders of capitalism taking one side and Marxists taking another. From the viewpoint of economic democracy, e.g. a labor-managed market economy, this is the late great debate between capitalism and socialism was misframed, as would be in antebellum great debate between the private or public ownership of slaves. The great debate between capitalism and socialism is now the dustbin of intellectual history, but Marxism still plays an important role in sustaining the misframing of the questions so that the defenders of the present employment system do not have to face the real questions to separate that system from a system of economic democracy. In that sense, Marxism has become the ultimate capitalist tool. Holy base, this is true. This is true. Is this guy a Marxist? Or is he? Oh, David Ellerman. Oh, so it's like a market socialist, seemingly. What's up, Chipingo? Welcome back. Sorry, did I miss earlier when you said it? I might have been talking to someone, or I might have just missed it for some reason. Oh yeah, I said it a while ago. I probably just missed it for other reasons. Market socialists are pretty based. Well, I mean, I have my objections, okay, but at least they're not typically. Well, there's like there's like a bell curve meme. No, actually, no, there's not. Because I think there's a lot of people who call themselves market socialists who are like just like the ultimate sloppulous people. And sometimes it's like full-on Marxist people who are not like sloppulous. They're like Phil bro, debate bro people, and like they are like in some senses more educated and like smarter than like the sloppulous market socialist. But there are also like not sloppulous market socialist people, like I guess Econoboy, retire in peace. Okay, 41 billion, corn, wheat, seed oils, iron ore. I really don't quite know. Insulated wire, poultry meat. I feel like it's probably somewhere in South America, right? But 41 billion, maybe not. It could be like an Eastern European country, I guess. Romania. Damn, fuck. Bulgaria? No, damn, fuck. Romania. What? Top right of Romania. God, I can't. I'm trying to manifest a map of Europe in my brain. It can't be. There's no way it's Ukraine, right? It might just. I feel like it is Ukraine. Fuck, I thought Ukraine had more wheat. Damn, not fun. Hear me out. I mean, hear you out. Key part of his argument here is that owning capital doesn't actually give you the right to order workers around per se. That comes with the employment contract. Anything is perfectly reasonable for the owner of capital to make a profit off owning capital, but not for them to order around workers. Around workers just because they own capital. Market socialists are pretty based if they are real ones and not leftist. True. Hold on. I want to try to find real quick the paper I was thinking of. I believe I have it saved. That's why we all hate SDL here. True. I found it. Found out large minimum wage increases significantly reduce employment and labor force participation for individual or working ages with severe disabilities. These declines are accompanied by downward shifts in wage distribution and an increase in public assistance receipt. By contrast, we find no employment effects at all for all but young individuals with neither either non-severe disabilities or no disabilities. I think this probably mentions. You're limiting some minimum wage and employment. Let's see what this says. The employment of people with disabilities is substantially and persistently lower than the employment of people without disabilities. Using American Community Survey data, the employment to population ratio of people with disabilities ages 18 to 64 is 44.5% compared to 78.9% for people without disabilities. Explores the effects of Medicaid expansion. Second essay examines the effect of eliminating the sub-minimum wage program on the employment of people with severe cognitive disabilities who are likely to receive sub-minimum wages via this program. Using data from the 2012 to 2019 American Community Survey and difference in differences approach, the study finds that states eliminating 14C have a 33.9% higher hourly wage for workers, excluding those who did not work, compared to states who did not eliminate. Okay, that's not really the effect we care about. We did not find evidence that eliminating it affected employment, work in the past 12 months, or hours. However, the impact of eliminating 14C varies across different groups. The triple differences analysis suggests that eliminating 14C may be associated with a 4.94 percentage point decrease in employment and a 5.66 percentage point decrease in work in the past 12 months for people with severe cognitive disabilities compared to people without severe cognitive disabilities. So maybe just eliminating the sub minimum wage might not have that big of an effect, according to this study and the earlier one. Although this is a essay, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't have the same econometric standards on its own. Event study. Whoa. Shocking. Okay. Guys, we just gotta at least check this real quick. Guys. This is one of the girls from the thing, and she went live on our own channel.
Argument from the pencil sharpener effect, if you're not familiar with it. And we have studies that we can
we have studies.
Bring.
Body count only matters for men. The pencil sharpener effect. Did the divorce rate come out of nowhere, or are you just a bad partner? Men's accountability. Your weak pull-out game causes 100% of abortions. True. Jesus would hate modern Christians.
Sharpener, right? Every time you stick your pencil in the pencil sharpener, it gets smaller. So similar to that. And we do have evidence to studies out of the CDC, because obviously the CDC studies penises. So they hold data on, obviously.
Fucking
best stay loyal.
I can't.
Yeah. But you know,
she just can't.
I mean, do you? It's fine. Like, some of us aren't size queens.
I think I need they need to stop giggling. I don't. They got so pissed off about that. I literally just. Was I giggling too much? I don't think it was in a mean way. They just asked like, "Do you know about the jobs report?" Which is just like, I'm sorry. It's just funny to ask about that, just because that's like, I don't want to say my thing, but like that's something that you can go on my Twitter and like, I think save the BLS is in like my bio. Okay, yeah, lib streamers, save the BLS, save the shrimp, save globalism. We got Jerome Powell. We got the I love the BLS. I need this as a shirt. I need a I love the BLS shirt. Although they collect CPI. Okay, the BEA does PCE. So can we love the BLS too much? Maybe it's possible. Maybe it's possible, guys. I think it's in my TikTok bio too. We need more J Bao fan cams. We do. Well, I mean, they were using him out when he first got indicted. Lip streamer, save the BLS, save the stream, save global. Like, save the BLS. Literally, like second thing in my bio. And do you know about the jobs report? Nafon, have you heard of the jobs report? Shocking. Guy play it. It's just like, yeah. It's interesting.
And after I clean the dishes, I'm gonna clean my wife. That's crazy. No, that's crazy.
Wow. Whoa. That's another guy who I had my eyes on to speak to.
Oh my God. Do you have live recordings? Because I
powers and we kick each other left.
And so an off-duty Cleburne Police Department police officer was the one that was teaching the class, about all the laws and good shoot, bad shoot, and all that shit, right?
True.
Bridget, busy. Every morning she's like, Mom, play YMCA. And she does. She
you in Ottawa?
Yeah, see, like that I think was an issue with my Wi-Fi. And that's why I want to be able to connect it over
I swear to God, I thought Shan was in a box.
You get intoxicated by 3 drinks? That's bad.
Yeah, she.
Okay, seems like everyone's doing nonsense.
A campaign asking to lock up this individual with no known facts, no anything, and whipped up
beatboxing. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Speaking of property rights and socialism and liberalism, okay, or whatever, what better time to watch some random bullshit that I never got to, okay? We might not watch all this, but I was curious about what Ryan Getty said in this. So I want to know. I think Ryan Getty's only in a little bit of it.
Episode is, but whatever. Yes, 2 minutes told to be here.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Contributor. So we thought we'd have you on because Matt just released a new book of which Paul is a.
Or we could learn foreign thought. Never.
Contributor. Do you want to give us just a basic summary of the book, Matt?
The only foreign policy I will ever learn is about the balance of payments, and that's it. The rest of the world is important, inaccurate. Calc? I'll learn calc.
Not sure that.
By the way, this is not surprising, but
that's exactly right. And by the way, I'm this is like maybe super heterodox. I am not sure that I think the reserve currency is actually good for the United States of America. I think there is a good argument.
Which that alone, by the way, is not like that crazy of an opinion that I have. But one, the reason for it is silly. And two, there's also just like it was directly in Trump's platform to keep America as the world reserve currency. It's funny because I remember bringing it up to people that like point 5 in Trump's platform, I might be getting the order wrong, was like make American manufacturing the strongest in the world, whatever. And then point 13 was like keep America the reserve currency, when like those two things are kind of in tension with each other, because having the US be the reserve currency means that our dollar is essentially kept expensive relative to other currencies. What's up, Dylan Thomas? Even domestic policies, foreign policies, since we are controlled by Israel. This is true. Because the bad specifically for the white, aggrieved industrial base, yeah, the advance in Trump's real core base.
Argument that reserve currency status is akin to coal in Appalachia. It's a resource curse, right? It allows your consumers to consume very cheaply, right? That's been the story of the American economy for the last 15 or so years. Even before that, is we can just borrow basically in an unlimited way because we have the reserve currency. That's exactly right. And by the way,
I wish you didn't cut it off or whatever, but it is like probably true that being the reserve currency, which by the way,
I've done business.
What does reserve currency really mean? Okay, what does reserve currency really mean? Well, you're not like, it just means like essentially other countries want to hold U.S. bonds because the U.S. dollar is used as like, for two reasons. One, because we're just viewed as a very safe asset, right? It's just the case that like U.S. bonds are amongst the safest in the world. You can be fairly confident that the U.S. government is going to pay out your bond when it comes due. And two, it's just used as an intermediary currency in international transactions. And a big reason for that is like just network effects. And well, I mean, either of those, how do you really undo? You could undo the U.S. is viewed as a safe place to invest by fucking everything up, right? You can just like inflate or like increase the deficit massively, or order the Federal Reserve to do, and the president can't like legally do this, but to just engage in like monetary financing when paying out bonds, which would, be like inflationary and essentially inflate away our debt. You could do that. That would make Americans worse off as well. But I don't even know how you could undo like just the network effects that make it such people want US dollars, because in order to trade, they use it as an intermediary currency. It'd just be very hard to undo that. But his book is good as well. Sorry, union reps today are the same as 20 years ago. Advance today as well. Blue collar unions. What? Delana asked. Thanks, enter username here for the follow. I appreciate it. Red capitalism. Oh boy. The fragile financial foundation of China's extraordinary rise. Interesting. Where is it written? 2010. Oh, must be destroyed.
Way,
I think Krugman has a blog post about the reserve currency stuff. True, as you often hear, the US dollar is the world's predominant reserve currency, but saying that alone actually defines the dollar's role too narrowly. It implies its role mainly depends on government policies. In fact, the dollar is special among national currencies in multiple ways, mostly involving private sector rather than government decisions. It's sometimes called a dominant currency or a key currency. The dollar is to other currencies the way money is to other goods and assets. The dollar is basically the money of monies. Why is the dollar the money of monies? Partially, this reflects the size of the U.S. economy. But while we have a big economy, it's not dominant. Both the euro area and China are of comparable economic size. The dollar, however, is dominant in the way the U.S.'s economy isn't, largely as a result of circular causation. People around the world use dollars to make transactions and set the prices, as well as holding a lot of dollars, and because other people do the same. In a 1967 essay, Kindleberger compared the role of the dollar as international currency to the role of English as an international language, an analogy that still works. If you want to know more, see Krugman 1984 and Gopinath and Stein 2018. So the dollar plays a special role in global trade and investment, mainly as a result of private sector decisions. However, this specialness is reinforced by government actions. For various reasons, many governments around the world, accounting for around half the world GDP, try to manage the rate at which their currency exchanges for other currencies. And they use dollars to do that mostly. Do you agree with me that underneath everything, it's that we are the guarantor of ocean trade globally? Not necessarily. I think it's largely network effects. Maybe to some extent, like I think the fact the network effects are there is in part because we're historically the world power and do still maintain, ocean trade routes and such, but it's not, that alone is not sufficient to maintain anything. It's true that foreigners buy a lot of U.S. debt securities every year, which to some extent reflects the role of the dollar as a reserve currency, although most of these purchases are of long-term securities, not the short-term securities usually used as reserve assets. But there's also a lot of capital inflow to the U.S. that it doesn't involve buying bonds, while at the same time, there's a lot of capital flowing out of the country as American individuals and companies invest abroad. Here's a picture for 2024. Suppose that we were somehow able to force foreign governments to stop buying U.S. bonds. The balance of payments always balances, so something else would have to change in response. But why should we, all or even most of the adjustment involve a reduction of the trade deficit? Why couldn't it involve an increase in other kinds of capital inflow or a reduction of capital outflows? In fact, I argued that the best bet is a reduced demand for dollar reserves would have little effect on net capital flows to the U.S., which mostly reflect the perception that the U.S. economy offers good investment opportunities. To be fair, some reasonable economists might disagree. What we can say for sure is that the assertion that there's necessarily a one-to-one link between foreign demand for reserves and U.S. trade deficits are wrong. Bro, so you think if we move our aircraft carriers from the world's ocean, we are still the main word? Why would people switch? Like what? Like, oh, the U.S. is not patrolling the Red Sea anymore. I guess I, in Mozambique, no longer am going to hold U.S. dollar. No, the reason you in Mozambique are holding U.S. dollars is because, and if you want to engage in financial activities with the rest of the world, the dollar is the intermediary currency. I don't hold dollars. I don't hold bank reserves. I don't hold, I don't have a deposit in dollars because the U.S. government has nukes. Now, maybe the reason everyone else has dollars in some is because the U.S. government has a big military nukes or whatever, but it's because other people use dollars. And when I go to the store, I need to use dollars to pay for things. What's our topic? We're floating around, but right now it's about JD Vance and trade deficits and the balance of payments and the U.S. as the world reserve currency. And also, this is an interesting, working paper. Also, insofar as we're the dominant currency, tariffs are not might not be the optimal way to extract money from foreign residents, even assuming that the burden of tariffs is primarily on foreign countries, because you could do an inflation tax. Tariffs in this environment are an insufficient substitute for the inflation tax. They either redistribute income domestically without altering reallocations or reduce the effective tax burden on foreigners at the expense of domestic residents. Together, these balances, I think, if the additional government revenue from tariffs is entirely spent, equilibrium allocations and returns remain unaffected. The tariffs are act equivalently to a direct tax on foreign investment returns, consistent with linear symmetry. Conversely, using tariff revenue to lower inflation results in a reduction of seigniorage collected from foreigners, thereby implicitly taxing domestic citizens in order to reduce foreign tax burdens. Thus, in this context, either redistribute income domestically without altering reallocations or reduce effective tax revenue collected from foreign holders of U.S. currency, highlighting their inefficiency relative to direct inflationary taxation. This is a funny result. J.D. Vance, Trump, true American patriot, increasing inflation in order to extract seigniorage from other countries holding U.S. assets. Following since 6 minutes ago. Yeah, he just followed. How does Epstein file sound? What do we think about the Epstein file? It is the type of person that followed 6 minutes ago. That's like the second thing they ask about. It's a little suspicious, a little weird. Makes me think some things, but I mean, like, my opinion, I think people are just like way overly concerned about it. I think there's just like a lot of conspiracy stuff that it's just like not true. And yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Why is this highlighted and underlined? It implies that persistent current account deficits within data can be explained by seigniorage revenue, specifically the import purchases necessary to accommodate government spending are financed by printing US dollars, which represent increasing nominal liabilities. However, in real terms, the fundamental dynamics remain unchanged. US imports are persistently financed by exploiting the return differential between US assets abroad and lower rates of returns earned by foreign holders of US currency. This looks as if the US is actually doing worse, incurring debt with the rest of the world, whereas in reality, not much is happening in real terms, and the US exploits real return differentials. It's true. Also Gonzalified. It's true. Okay, that being that.
Valley Bank, before what I'm going to say and what I have said publicly is a statement against financial interests, but I think that what happened is the uninsured depositors got a bailout. It was terrible for basic fairness in our financial system. It rewarded a lot of millionaires, including a lot of out-of-country millionaires, and it also further enshrined a two-tier banking system where if you're big enough and you're powerful enough, you get a bailout, and if you're not big and not powerful...
Sorry, just like... I know, I've heard the term Gonzalified before. What? I don't know why I opened this twice. Coined by... Blue Sky user... Opinion Haver in a post on November 9th referring to the 2024 drone sightings. Referred to a hypothetical creature that was the subject of a conspiracy theory. Incredible. Oh, wait, sorry. Oh, I am reading it wrong. Glonzo. Yeah, the people earlier, I don't know how, I don't know. I think they were just being purposely stupid, to be honest. But like, when I was like, yeah, I think like MAGA has like moved the Republicans in like a more populist right direction. And that's evidence in like some of the more like market interventionary actions that they support now. And like this type of rhetoric J.D. Vance is using is a good example of that. That's stuff that they wouldn't do before. And then she just appealed to John McCain. And it's like, yeah, I agree. John McCain would not have done those things.
Powerful enough, you don't. And that's a disaster. Now, I understand the argument. Some of my very good friends, I mean, David Sachs and I haven't disagreed on much over the last 4 or 5 years. He's a very, very smart guy and a very, very just, he's a patriotic guy whose interests are in the right place. His argument is if you don't bail out the uninsured depositors of Silicon Valley Bank, you get a bank run that leads to a broader financial panic. I don't think that's right. I think it was possible to ensure there was enough liquidity in the financial system to prevent a bank run without saving the uninsured depositors of Silicon Valley Bank. That's my view. And if you just look at the fairness implications of this.
Okay. I think it's definitely possible to argue it would not have led to a broader financial crisis or whatever, but like, isn't definitionally, it was your friends who wanted it. Yeah, I know. It's all the Silicon Valley tech right pros. Isn't it definitionally a bank run if they don't get their deposits back? Am I wrong here? I feel like it definitionally is a bank run if the bank goes under and the depositors don't get their money back, like that. Like when many clients try to withdraw their money from a bank because they believe the bank may fail in the near future, it may occur in a fraction of their bank system, and blah 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 blah. Like you might argue that it wouldn't have been contagious, but pretty sure definitionally is a bank run.
I don't think that's right. I think it was possible to ensure there was enough liquidity in the financial system to prevent a bank run without saving the uninsured depositors of Silicon Valley Bank. That's my view. And if you just look at the fairness implications of this. So the FDIC basically wrote about $150 billion of checks to Silicon Valley Bank's uninsured depositors and other people to prevent this bank run. Okay. Most of the people who benefit from that money are extremely wealthy. Almost all of them basically wrote about $150 billion at the fairness implications of this. So the FDIC basically wrote about $150 billion of checks to Silicon Valley Bank's uninsured depositors and other people to prevent this bank run. Okay. Most of the people who benefit from that money are.
How much did Silicon Valley Bank sell for? First Citizen has bought about 72 billion of their assets at a 16.5 billion discount. Okay, why are you making me do math? Roughly 9 billion securities and other assets remained under FDIC ownership. I could be wrong. So I'm pretty sure the FDIC won. It was like nationalized, right? So like they owned Silicon Valley Bank for a brief period of time, and then sold it. And that some of that money was used to pay the depositors from the sale of Silicon Valley Bank, and then some of it was just the FDIC has their own money, which is not like technically taxpayers' money. Technically, it's financed by the banking sector itself, but in effect, that cost is probably passed through to consumers, so it is effectively taxpayers' money. Re-theory. Elizabeth Warren argued that we should have kept it permanently. Not surprising. Debanking and debunking. What is this? Closing bank accounts, debanking is referred to cluster closures. This is just about all the like Trump crypto bros who didn't like that there was regulation or proposed regulation to oh no, I think it was they said that they were being debanked because there wasn't regulation that prohibited banks from working with like crypto bros when there are probably good reasons for banks to be skeptical of working with crypto companies, because crypto is often used for crime and fraud, and yeah, they don't want to be associated with that. That affects their image. And how SBF and SPV and all bank regulations relate to this. Yes, yeah. Where's I would think it would say in here. whether or not it was able to cover all of it with the sale, but it might not have.
Are extremely wealthy. Almost all of them are way, way wealthier than the average American. Okay. Where is that money coming from? Of course, money doesn't grow on trees. It comes from a fee levied on community banks. So, in short, small community banks who will never benefit from a bailout are paying higher fees so that millionaires and sometimes billionaires in Silicon Valley can get their uninsured depositors bailed out.
So the banks themselves don't
like that.
Don't really when you say benefit from the bailout. Technically, in a sense, it is better than the counterfactual of not having the FDIC probably for the banks and the bank owners. But like the bank goes under, the FDIC nationalizes it. They nationalize the bank and then they sell it. And small banks probably, I would guess on the whole, have disproportionately benefited from the FDIC in the sense that they are bailed out more often just because they, have they don't have as many deposits on hand. They probably don't have as much credibility as the bigger banks. Like
that is not okay. And what makes it especially troubling to me is that there's no obvious rule at play here that you can follow if you're a small community bank. Like, do we want to be Canada, which has like 3 banks in the entire economy? The entire financial system is run by 3 banks. That's true of a lot of European countries.
Hell yeah.
Do we want to have a community banking ecosystem in the United States of America?
I think this Noah Smith article talked about it, but I could be wrong. The FDIC has 2 jobs, tries to prevent bank failures by offering deposit insurance. Second, it tries to minimize the damage of bank failures by taking failed banks into receivership, selling off their assets and paying their depositors. The latter is what the FDIC is doing now with SVB. SBV has been put into receivership, meaning that its shareholders have been wiped out and its employees will, after 45 days of getting paid, help clean up their mess, be out of a job. The FDIC is even now looking for a buyer, or buyers plural, for SBV's assets. Whether it's one buyer or several is actually pretty important. In most bank failures, the failed bank's assets and deposits are both transferred to another bank. In other words, if you yesterday had a bank account at SBV, today you have an account at some other bank and you don't lose a penny of your deposits. There have always been hundreds of bank failures since 2008, and this is almost always what happens. The most famous example of this was Washington Mutual in 2008, which was an even bigger bank than SVB. When Washington Mutual failed, its assets and deposits just got transferred to JP Morgan Chase, and depositors kept all their money. Yeah, I don't know if I'd have to look at exactly what happened because it was given to multiple buyers. What the hell? What's up, localist? Can't I do a equation or like make a graph in Google Sheets that shows me how many were like big versus small banks here? Today is Friday for Jared K. True. It is indeed Friday. I never know what day it is.
I think that we do. I think it's good for our small businesses to be funded by people who are a little bit closer to home.
Yes, obviously. The whole point of the Shrimp Welfare Project is making sure there is.
Sure.
And the neighborhoods and the people working there a little bit better. Do we want to destroy that system? Because
for PR reasons,
one of the best ways that you can do that is to tell everybody you have unlimited uninsured deposits if you're at a big bank, but you're screwed if you're at a small bank. And that's basically what the FDIC and the Fed just did.
How did the small banks just are not going to have that many uninsured deposits if they're really like actually small? How do I don't know. I should know. I don't know how to use Google Sheets properly. Can't I like make a put them into deciles? How do I like just put them into deciles? Because this just has all of them.
The regulators miss this. You know, it seemed like
because they're all woke idiots.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say this, but look, I talked to a number of, I probably talked to the CEOs of the top 10 banks, almost nearly every single one of them in the past 3 weeks. And every single one of them has said, if you had a 23-year-old first-year accountant go into Silicon Valley Bank with a basic examiner's book, they would have said, this bank is about to fail.
What's up, Bert? Bert Stein, welcome back. It's been a bit.
And that would have been that. It would have been very, very easy. The regulators weren't looking at the company. That's the only way to explain what happened, is they weren't actually looking at the company. And this is, you know, this is one of the reasons.
Yes, I forget the details by now, but yes, they were. Didn't they? They passed the like risk stress test or whatever, right?
Reasons why we
been a minute. How have you been? I've been pretty good. You've been good.
Name 10 shrimp.
Nah, bro, we don't do lists.
Have to be
here.
somewhat circumspect.
Ask me to name 3 if you want.
True, I trained him to respond short, so he doesn't want to name 10.
Respect on the new right, or whatever you're going to call our broad movement. Sometimes when people say the regulators are way dumber than the entities that they're regulating, they're actually being true and honest about that. And so we have to be careful here, because, look, I'm not opposed to regulating the banks in principle, but the regulations to prevent this were in place. It's the people on the ground who failed to apply those regulations. And that suggests to me that we need a broader overhaul in the financial system. We need to actually end too big to fail. We need to end the two-tier banking system. We can't rely on the regulators to regulate themselves out of this, because it's clear that, at least in the financial space, the regulators are just much less good than the people that they're regulating.
One final question, and then we can turn it over to the audience for Q&A, so be thinking about it. It seems like with the way that our financial system has gone over the last few years, heads they win, tails you lose when it comes to middle-class Americans. So in a low-interest rate environment, house, it gets purchased by like a foreigner, $100,000 over asking, and you didn't even
True, man.
have a chance. And in a high-interest rate environment, good luck getting a mortgage. It's ridiculous. What's the way out of...
Dog. What are we doing? What are we doing? Maybe first of all, there's a bit of some. I don't even know what to call it. Co-founders, I guess. Like maybe the reason real interest rates were low is because real income was low. Real income was declining, right? They were, to some extent, felt naturally to some extent lowered in response to the fact that we had a crisis in 2008 and we had a recession, right? Like, I don't know, maybe that has something to do with it. The low interest rates were not exogenous to real income; they were endogenous to it, right? But secondly, the reason that people, even in the low interest rate environment, besides just lower real incomes, were somewhat screwed on the housing issue or whatever, and it was bought by whatever big capital owners overseas, whatever people we want to blame that day, was because we had a bunch of new lending requirements imposed, because part of what was responsible for the 2008 crisis was subprime mortgages, right? Like, now I think many of those regulations were like unfair and are bad and are still constraining housing supply, right? I think we should get rid of them, but like, clearly it wasn't like we're gonna screw the middle class over or anything. It was a well-intentioned policy to try to prevent another financial crisis from happening.
The current state of our financial system in a way that would actually benefit middle class and working class Americans.
Oh man, that's a big one. And I'm not sure I know the answer.
Fix all
to
the
it.
problems.
I mean, I think one of the things that definitely happened in a super low interest rate environment is that capital flowed to two industries to an extraordinary degree: finance and tech. Okay. So if you look at really what's going on with Silicon Valley Bank bailout, one of the ways to understand it is that QE was a massive, massive subsidy to finance and tech. And then,
bro, ignore the finance and tech. What? They bought like what? They bought like mortgage-backed securities and like government bonds. What do you mean? What?
and all the finance and tech companies basically went, or they lost a lot of value. Not all of them went bust. That would be overstating it. But you can't have a financial system that creates a massive asset inflation.
And I made a profit, by the way. I made a profit to the U.S. government. As profits were remitted to the U.S. Treasury. I think he's about to mention the... Asset bubble.
For the banks and all the finance and tech companies basically went, or they lost a lot of value. Not all of them went bust. That would be overstating it. But you can't have a financial system that creates a massive asset inflation for the banks and for the tech companies. And then when there's a correction, basically come in and say, well, we're going to protect you from the downside risk, right? That's socialized risk, socialized loss, and privatized reward. That's how you get the pitchforks, right? Because to your point, the middle class people end up suffering the most.
Because middle class people they could never possibly benefit from increasing asset prices or their deposits being insured. Like, bro. Libertarians often focus on the question of how money gets injected into the economy, who gets the money first, and what assets are purchased. The first question is almost entirely unimportant. The second is potentially important, but not very important in practice. Let's start with two questions of who gets the money first. If this were important, then the following two monetary policy options should have dramatically different effects. Inject $1 billion in new money by purchasing treasury debt, or inject $1 billion in new money through money-based payments to ordinary people, Social Security payments, tax rebates, etc. In the first case, bondholders are the first to receive the new base money, while in the second case, average people get the money first. There seems to be an idea floating around that the first group receives the money gets some sort of unfair advantage. It is hard to see why. Consider the pre-2008 monetary regime, where there was no payment of interest on bank reserves. In that case, base money is not a particularly attractive asset. Average people have access to base money whenever they wish to add to their cash balances via withdrawals from an ATM. But most people prefer to hold relatively small quantities of base money, as it does not pay interest. Those who get new base money from the Fed will generally not hold onto the asset. Rather, they'll convert it into an asset that offers a better rate of return. Thus, when Treasury bondholders sell their bonds to the Fed, any money they receive will generally be converted into an alternative asset. The same is true of ordinary people. If Social Security payments or tax rebates were made in newly issued cash, most people would take the cash to a bank and convert it into a higher yielding asset. Few people would see themselves as receiving special treatment by being the first to get the new money. Indeed, they might be annoyed. There's a more sophisticated version of this argument. When the Fed buys treasuries and buys treasury bonds, it helps bondholders by boosting the price of the asset they are selling. In contrast, if money were injected into the economy in payments to ordinary people, there would be no extra demand for treasury bonds and hence no boost to T-bond prices. This argument is wrong for two reasons. First, it's not clear that injecting money into the economy will boost T-bond prices. Second, even in the case where monetary injections do boost bond prices, it makes no difference whether the new money is injected by purchasing T-bonds or through payments to the public as part of existing government operations. It might seem obvious that buying bonds would boost bond prices. Isn't this just a matter of supply and demand? It's true that Fed open market purchases directly increase the demand for T-bonds, but this is sort of policy indirectly reduces bond demand by boosting inflation expectations. After the mid-1960s, the Fed rapidly increased the rate at which it purchased government securities, but those purchases boosted inflation, which sharply reduced bond prices. The Fisher effect dominated the liquidity effect. And, as we saw earlier, during late 2007 and early 2008, the Fed stopped injecting money by purchasing bonds, and counterintuitively, this had the effect of actually boosting bond prices. Every transaction is two-sided. When you buy an asset with newly created money, you are putting upward pressure on the value of the asset and downward pressure on the value of money. If the asset represents a claim on future cash flows, as with bonds, the net effect on the asset's value can be negative. Nonetheless, there are occasions where the liquidity effect dominates the Fisher effect. There are times when bond purchases have the effect of boosting bond prices. But in those cases, the monetary injection would have an almost identical impact on bond prices if the money were directly paid out to individuals, holding fiscal policy constant. Consider the previous two alternative methods of injecting $1 billion into the economy. If the money is used to purchase T-bonds, then the net effect is to reduce the stock of treasury debt held by the public by an amount exactly equal to the increase in monetary base. If the money is paid out to Social Security recipients and taxpayers getting rebates, then the Treasury will reduce its issuance of new debt by $1 billion. If those payments had not been made via newly issued base money, then the Treasury would have had to borrow an additional $1 billion to finance the expenditures. The two methods have exactly the same impact on both the money supply and the stock of Treasury debt held by the public. Thus, the impact on interest rates would be almost identical. And more stuff, yada yada, yeah. Katie man's silly.
How do you fix that? One view that I have is there's a very clear connection between globalization and financialization. And so if you look, as the era of globalization really reached its apex, you saw the percentage of the economy that was gobbled up by finance and tech go up and up and up. So I think that you want more of the economy in the things where people are actually making things and where most Americans are actually working. You cannot have an economy where the growth is all in finance and tech. And unfortunately, that's been the story of the American economy for the past 15 or so years. So,
bro, don't look at
I think growth is all in finance and tech, and unfortunately,
don't make me make Fred series, bro. Financial sector value added as a percentage of GDP. U.S. Fred. Please tell me this is a series on this. But why is this a value added by gross domestic product as a percentage of GDP? Why is this a thing? What? Incredible. This is information as a percentage of GDP, but I don't know if that's really the type of stuff I want to capture, because I think it's going to be like even like manufacturing and stuff has stuff. Finance, insurance, real estate. Like, yeah, it's like 8% now. This includes insurance, real estate. It was 7.4% in 2005. Like, wait, hold on. I added by industry: finance, insurance, real estate, rental, and leasing. Finance and insurance as a percentage of GDP. Is this? I think this is what I want. Yeah, it's within. Okay. This is 20% for like everything, and it's 20, or it's 21% now. It's gone up 1 whole percentage point since 2005. I wish I could go back further, but
that's been the story of the American economy for the past 15 or so years. So I think a big part of the answer is we need to really, really end the era of globalization. I think part of the story is that we really need to end the two-tier banking system. And there's probably a lot more to do beyond that, but I won't attempt to solve the problem. But that is, to me, the fundamental problem. Not enough productive capital investment, way too much chasing asset price inflation. And what it gets is an economy like we've had for the past 15 years, where if you're in finance or tech, it's great. If you're in any other sector, you're not doing so well.
It turns out you can't base a reserve currency on quant trading and SaaS companies.
Well, and that's exactly right. And by the way, I'm this is like maybe super heterodox. I am not sure that I think the reserve currency is actually good for the United States of America. I think there is a good argument that reserve currency status is akin to coal in Appalachia. It's a resource curse, right? It allows your consumers to consume very cheaply, right? That's been the story of the American economy for the last 15 or so years. Even before that, is we can just borrow basically in an unlimited way because we have the reserve currency. So that's a massive subsidy to incurring debt. The debt is cheaper, even in raised interest rate environments. This is one of the crazy things about what's going on right now is the market is in some ways pricing future interest rates lower than what the Fed is right now. That's kind of weird. So we have this massive.
Wait, sorry, what? So I'm trying to make a Google Sheets graph still.
Unlimited.
By that, does he just mean long-term rates are lower than short-term rates?
Because we have the reserve currency, so that's a massive subsidy to incurring debt. The debt is cheaper, even in raised interest rate environments. This is one of the crazy things about what's going on right now is the market is in some ways pricing future interest rates lower than what the Fed is right now. That's kind of weird.
The Fed doesn't control long-term rates, so I don't know what he's, unless he just means long-term rates are higher than short-term rates, which I don't know where that stands as of now, actually. But
so we have this massive subsidy to cheap debt for the American consumer. Well, that's good, right? Consuming is important, especially food, medicine, things like that. But I think it's a massive tax on American producers. So the weirdest thing just one final point on this. I know we're getting the weeds of financing globalization a little bit, but the weirdest thing to me about the last 30 or 40 years of the American economy is go back to previous eras of globalization. And what you normally see is the rich country investing in the poor country. The poor country is elevating its standard of living and also providing some products that the rich company needs. Okay, that's the story of the UK helping America industrialize in the early part of the 19th century and into the mid 19th century. With China and America, it's been almost completely inverted, where American consumers are borrowing money from Chinese peasants to make the things the Chinese peasants, or to buy the things the Chinese peasants make for them. Okay.
What? The
poor country is elevating its standard of living.
Which, first of all, it's still the case that their standard of living is going up of the poor countries.
And
arguably at the rate at which it has is increased since globalization and decreased since we've seen a shift away from globalization.
So providing some products that the rich company needs. Okay, that's the story of the UK helping America industrialize in the early part of the 19th century and into the mid 19th century. With China and America, it's been almost completely inverted, where American consumers are borrowing money from Chinese peasants to make the things the Chinese peasants, or to buy the things the Chinese peasants make for them. Okay.
But like we can't, so it's true that they're like net capital inflow, like we have a trade deficit, but that to some extent just reflects the fact that, you know, our budget deficit drains our own national savings. So like people's decisions there aren't entirely, what's the proper way to put it? They're not entirely uncoerced, right? The government is making decisions about taxation that drain national savings. And then two, America is just like a really good place to invest. So like that also is not like reflective of like U.S. consumers like wanting to borrow or whatever, like on its own. It's just the fact that we are a really good place to invest because we're very like productive. There's very high returns to our assets. And actually we, as we're like that one paper we pulled up earlier, like we kind of exploit the return differential. We earn the foreigners are like holding a bunch of low yielding like U.S. bonds, and we're holding a bunch of like high yielding assets overseas, right? And our own assets are very high yielding. That's probably good for the U.S.
So like money is flowing uphill. Like that's actually the nature of the American economy for the past 30 years. We've been borrowing money from poor Chinese people so that we can buy the things they make for us. That's really weird. And I wonder if that's a consequence of the reserve currency status.
Incredible. Hold on, wait. How do I do this? I'm not seeing any. What's up, South Drama? I'm not seeing what I want to do. Regardless, I think most of these are small. I don't know if there's a technical definition of small banks, but you know. Just got back from Spider-Man. Did you like it? I think I told you already, because I've mentioned it on stream before, but I really like the newer Spider-Man. Four out of five. Is that what is that relative to the other Spider-Man movies? Hold on, how do I chart type histogram chart? Why is there not? How do I just make it deciles? How do I just let me make it deciles? I might pirate it, but I have to watch the past 1 to 2 since I'm behind based. It's I imagine it's only the like movie theater recording still. So you might want to wait to pirate it even. Just because those usually are not optimal. Should I be able to? Bucket size. Wait, why is it? Shouldn't this tell me how many things it has? What do I make it 1,000? Okay, I can make it later, whatever. I'm presuming I'm right based on intuition still, regardless, and there's probably something better than even that thing I could use. Okay, do we want to check this out? Oh, shit. Thanks, Microsoft Edge, for being stupid. Debanking describes a cluster of behaviors. Most salient one is involuntarily closing a customer's bank account, often a long-established one, optionally without presenting a reason. Because debanking is an advocacy term, that often gets conflated with declining to open an account for a person or a business. These two things are very different in their impact on a person/firm. In our moral intuitions, it's the difference between getting divorced and being turned down for a date. Advocates often invoke a user-centric perspective of debanking, focusing on the impact of individuals/firms. Then they conflate it with regulators' decisions regarding bank supervision in ways which are both, facially not about direct user impact. We will return to bank supervision later. Industry doesn't call it debanking. This is partly for the usual corporate euphemism reasons. This is partly because industry does not always share assumptions of how the world should work with advocates, and is concerned that debanking smuggles in some assumptions. So when one discusses this with colleagues, one might hear terms like offboarding, de-risking, closing accounts of a customer, etc. There's often an implication, and much of a reality, that the debanking decision is not a single financial institution. Sorry, it's not one of a single financial institution. So, sufficiently correlated independent decisions by financial institutions could deprive a firm or individual of access to banking services. We'll explore some conditional mechanisms which are overstated and some correlational mechanisms which are poorly understood. Okay. Might be interesting if I ever have to debate some crypto bro. Okay, I'll save it, but you know. Okay, guys, we're gonna check again. Wait, I know the anti-slot people will object, but just to check in on our friends who we spoke to earlier.
No.
Oh, sorry. What was that then?
So women commit violent crimes, men commit
Not at the same rate that men do. Men commit 98% of the violent crime.
The Democrat Party is the party of degeneracy. Go and try and
Let's
deny
do the
it.
Trump offense game.
Hold on. B is not. That's crazy. And lyrics.
Even your body, like your internal body, doesn't have fucking free will. Like you can't stop a heartbeat. You can't
go to the bar. I'm
Okay. Interesting.
I can provide you the document that
Yeah, absolutely. So our book is What is Liberal Socialism with Repeater Books. So thank you very much, Repeater Books, for publishing it. And this is a collection of essays on the topic of liberal socialism, along with an intro and a few other goodies, mostly written by me, from different outlets that I published with over the years, but also with some contributions from Paul, who wrote an excellent essay, kind of offering his own, oddly enough, kind of libertarian-inflected take on what liberal socialism could look like. And then we also had some contributions from Dr. Florian Maywald, who's offering something of an idiosyncratic,
Nerd, I know.
more continental with John Stuart Mill's kind of take on what
The man who made a Conaway fall.
liberal socialism should look
I mean, not the only reason, but
like. I'm very proud of the essay collection. I think it
what was that? I heard.
more continental with John Stuart Mill's kind of take on what liberal socialism should look like. I'm very proud of the essay collection.
I heard a noise. I think it might be schizophrenic.
I think it does
don't know what the hell it was.
a couple of things that you wouldn't find in any other piece. One of them is it gives you a real sense of the diversity of views that you can find even within the liberal socialist.
Oh shit! I do think I do know.
I know Paul will be happy to hear me say this, but it's not all rules all the time, right? There are a lot of different ways that you can tackle this and look at it and understand it. And then the other thing I think the essay collection does is it tackles a lot more than just political theory issues. Obviously, there's quite a bit of that, and you can get your stuff on Charles Mills and C.B. McPherson and stuff. But we also write a little bit about modernity, what the relationship of liberal socialism is to the right. Characteristic, questions about cultural studies, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's a pretty diverse and interesting book.
I wonder if we could just do a quick little bit about what exactly is liberal socialism. I feel like I have a sort of
ghost cat,
even though we've never.
Wait, it kind of sounded like my cat, but I think it might have just been my phone vibrating. This new phone that I bought for the TikTok stuff.
Met because I recently did a video talking about liberal populism was the title of my video. So two words that a lot of people I don't think see as going together a lot of times. And I would say the same about liberal socialism. So people don't usually speak of these two words in the same sentence, except to compare one to the other favorably or unfavorably. So I wonder if we could just get a little bit about what exactly is liberal socialism.
Sure. Well, what I try to point out in this book, in my bigger, more academic book, The Political Theory of Liberal Socialism, is that far from being kind of oxymoronic or a person accused me of trolling, right? I was just trying to put these things together to piss everyone off. I'll admit there was some fun in that, but, it's actually a tradition that goes very far back, right? I point out that there are antecedents in the writings of people like Mary Wollstonecraft and Thomas Paine, both of whom saw excesses of private property or excess concentrations of private property as incompatible with liberalism and called for the formation of a more egalitarian society. The idea really matured in the writing.
Have you considered that by principle? It's something that can never at all ever be infringed. I think some of you here now miss the context of the earlier debate I had or whatever with some TikTok dipshits. When one of them asked like, "What are some principles of liberalism?" and like I gave some, and then she was like, "Well, but some of those things sometimes are not protected in liberal societies." And I'm like, "Okay, well, no liberal thinks that every individual right ought to be protected under all circumstances." From the beginning, people like Locke were talking about the social contract and stuff, but apparently that's unacceptable. Apparently that means it's not liberal.
Stuart Mill, who I think most people would accept as probably a liberal philosopher. You could even ask, who isn't a liberal, or who is a liberal philosopher if Mills isn't. And Mill identified as a socialist, certainly in his mature period, albeit what we would now call a market socialist, who thought that it was important not to have too much power concentrated in the state. And then there are a lot of different developments and permutations in the tradition that evolved afterwards. Keynes identified as a liberal socialist. Rawls, of course, said that property-owning democracy or liberal socialism were the only two regimes that could properly instantiate liberal justice. So very, very broad and diverse tradition in a lot of ways. The way I summarize it, kind of bumper sticker slogan is liberal socialists are committed to achieving economic democracy through liberal means. Right? We think that ultimately what we should be doing is extending liberal principles into the marketplace and into the workplace, which includes principles like freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, concentrations of power in the hands of workers that counteract the authority and the power of capitalists. And this is very much in line with longstanding liberal ambitions to kind of prevent domination and to secure freedom and equality for all.
Adam, I wonder if you could take us in a more substantive direction, because my role is just to be the guy that asks this.
More substantive. Did you see the Candace versus Andrew debate? Yeah, I did watch it. I did torture myself by watching it. Yeah.
Questions.
Well, first, I guess I'd be curious to hear from Paul on his
Okay, I don't know who this guy is.
particular
So
contribution to the collection.
I'm interested.
Like what sets it apart from Matt's perspective, from the other perspective that he made?
What did you think? I don't know, dog. I like for someone who paid $300,000 to be there. I would have expected Andrew to do better. Now I still think that like Andrew technically, I would say like won. He might not have won like from like a purely rhetorical view. Maybe he like didn't win. Maybe Candace came off as like looking better, but or at least to a decent subset or maybe even majority of people. But it's just very, very silly. I don't know. Diversity of thought on the right, y'all. Did Tyler Robinson really kill Charlie Kirk, or was it Israel? I'm waiting for the same. the Sam Harris reaction. I gotta make a parody video. There's this one. Oh my god, I wonder if I can find it. What do you think? I didn't bother watching it, so I'm trying to get other people's reviews and summaries. What actually happened in the debate? I mean, like, not much. Like, it was like the contents. A good amount of it wasn't even like, I would say, substantive, and that a good amount of it was like them talking about definitions for stuff and them talking about whether something counts as like evidence. Like at one point they spent a decent chunk of time just talking about like whether I forget exactly what Candace raised at the time, but I think she raised something about like the gun having other people's fingerprints in it. I think they were talking about that at the time, but it might have been some other piece of evidence. And Andrew Wilson was like, well, how's that evidence of him being, you know, a patsy or whatever? Because that's the claim like Candace was making. And they just spent like a decent chunk of time talking about like whether or not evidence against the theory like Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk is like necessarily evidence of him like being a patsy or whatever. Like they just spent like a decent chunk of time in that. Things of that nature. A lot of it is just like Candace Owens will like say some weird conspiracy stuff about different people's fingerprints being on the gun or the gun having debris in it and stuff. And Andrew Wilson will be like, well, that can be explained in like a pretty simple way. Shit, I gotta find this video. Minecraft gun in my head. You couldn't make me watch it or care. I mean, I just watch it while playing video games just because it's like I was playing Spider-Man 2. And it was a good way to pass time. What would you say Andrew did bad or suboptimal with, etc.? Just on like some of the rhetorical things. It's like there's one point that has been clipped a lot of Andrew Wilson not being able to list all the charges, like, or any of the charges against Tyler Robinson. And then and Candace Owens could. And then I don't know precisely how to describe it. It's just like for someone that paid so much money to be there, you would you don't come away with the sense that like Candace Owens has been entirely destroyed, even in sections where Andrew like on balance like did well. It's not that like he wasn't mean necessarily or like mean enough, but like they did also a decent chunk of time with Candace complaining about being interrupted, which Andrew did like interrupt a fair amount, I guess, but yeah. I don't know. You just, it's just like not a total victory, total domination like you think it would be for such a kind of easy topic. Was Wilson's line of questioning terrible or poorly crafted? I don't think I would say it was terrible. I think it's like not going to be appealing to a good subset of people. Some of it might be like too Phil Bro type of stuff. What would have been a better line of questioning? Just like, I think just like, I don't know, pressing her on like specific things more often and like being meaner. Like he should have just been like, I don't know. There are certain times where it's like, I mentioned the debris in the gun earlier, where Andrew Wilson is like, he's worked with rifles or whatever before. It is like, yeah, it's just is like, is the case that there can still be debris in rifles when even after you shoot them. And obviously, if you put the rifle down in the woods, like there's gonna be debris in it, and then but they more or less just like let that point go afterwards. And I feel like there should be a time where he's like, so we're clear, like every single like piece of evidence you raise is like I can like almost all of this is explained like super easily if you just do like any amount of research into this stuff like at all, or even just like think about some things a bit. Isn't that like concerning?
Mentions in the collection.
Yeah, no, I would love to hear from Matt later how my chapter is libertarian inflected, I think is what he said.
Fighting words.
Fighting words, exactly. So my essay is just coming at liberal socialism from a different perspective. So I think unlike Matt, I come from a liberal background rather than a socialist background. You can come to liberal socialist positions from sort of either direction. And for me, I am thinking about freedom. Over the years, from beginning as a libertarian, I had a very narrow conception of freedom. And as you just learn more, you read more, you start to add on Republican conceptions of freedom, like freedom from domination, and you learn about social justice, and you add on freedom from oppression, and you just read things like the capabilities approach, and you start to think, okay, well, freedom is a lot more complicated than that. It's freedom to just actually do and be things in the world that you want to. And so I think most people's conceptions of liberalism don't always get at some of the more power based limitations of freedom or unfreedom.
Finally, I found it.
Harris, what were your overall thoughts?
I'm waiting for the
Sam
updated version of this video of Sam Harris's
appearance.
Sam Harris's reaction to the debate
on the Joe Rogan podcast. Joe had 3 hours of access to the second most powerful man in the world, certainly in the United States, and he could have asked him any number of topics that directly relate to Americans' everyday lives. And instead, he saw fit to dedicate at least 2/3 of the conversation to establishing whether demons or aliens actually exist, or whether some bullshit about whether the United States government is hiding a crash recovery site. I mean, what exactly is the utility in this conversation, right? I mean, what exactly does Joe think that people have to learn from such conversations of know-nothingism? I mean, he was literally asking J.D. Vance about whether he'd seen one dumb movie or this dumb movie or that dumb movie, and he was literally one question away from asking how we would differentiate between Casper the Friendly Ghost and Sam Wheat. I mean, as if anybody in the United States is losing sleep or staying up at night thinking about it, except for a few nut jobs. And at no point did J.D. Vance
it is. I love this video, bro. It's such a good impression. I need him to make another one of like Sam Harris complaining about the total degradation of online discourse to did Israel kill Charlie Kirk?
Freedoms. And so one thing that I talk about, that I spend a lot of time on in my chapter, is the threat to freedom that is posed by the ultra wealthy. So the super the ultra billionaires
has not read Tuba Rooter.
They pose a threat.
And trillionaires now.
Well, as soon as he became a trillionaire, there are all of these. People, there'd be social media accounts that would say, well, actually, because the market shifted, he's only like $900 billion now or something like that. So hopefully he's not a trillionaire at this moment. But
for him.
For him, exactly. Yeah, right. I know. So yeah, Elon Musk is a great example of the threat that this poses, right? So he, has impacted geopolitics with Starlink, right? He spent like $250 million on the 2024 election, which helped get Donald Trump elected. And because of that, one imagines it was a kind of quid pro quo. Elon Musk was sort of given, a free range in the beginning of the Trump 2.0 administration to do whatever he wanted. So he, ended USAID. He or functionally ended USAID.
I unfortunately don't even think it was a quid pro quo. I think it's stupider than that. I think it's just I don't know. I think it is probably just some calculation of Elon Musk being popular and his message resonated with people, and Trump just thinks he can get W's by letting Elon Musk in. I think unfortunately it's just stupider than that.
He brought in his little,
and I don't, Elon Musk probably had some amount of like genuine belief. I do, to be clear, the concern, I think the degrading effects of wealth inequality democracy are like the most like valid concerns, and especially when it comes to media. And I think Elon Musk in particular is like a vivid example of that type of thing. But I also think Elon Musk probably just had like some like genuinely mistaken beliefs, like just some genuinely retarded ketamine addict beliefs about how the U.S. government was like wasting trillions of dollars. They thought they were going to cut the deficit by $2 trillion. Yeah, exactly. I think and he probably at some point someone had to tell him that was just not going to happen. But I think he probably genuinely had some just like retarded idea that he could save a significant amount of money just by doing his bullshit. But did not work out seemingly.
Teenage goons to presumably steal a bunch of things, a lot of information from government databases. And when you think about it, somebody with that level of wealth has controls wealth that is the equivalent to like the income of a small nation, right? So if you have that kind of wealth, then you
listen. I already gave my disclaimer, okay, but comparing a stock to a flow.
Can deploy it at any moment, and we all have to sort of walk on eggshells to just hope that they're going to use it in some socially responsible way, like what is her name? Bezos's ex-wife, Mackenzie. I can't think of the first name, but you love to see billionaires like that. You love to see Taylor Swift like make it big, make $1 billion. She's entertaining people, but people like
Crew McNaught a billionaire. Hashtag smash like. Hashtag make me a billionaire in YouTube likes, in YouTube jewels. Rookhook, should I watch the Candace Owens debate or am I good? Just is it a skip? I mean, don't like. It's. I think probably you're the type of person to find it to some degree like mildly entertaining. You're not going to get anything like seriously like meaningful out of it. But like I just had it on in the background while playing Spider-Man, like I said, and it was not the worst time of 2 hours in the world, I guess.
Bezos, people like Elon Musk, like Mark Andreessen, like all these people are deploying their wealth in socially harmful ways and politically destabilizing ways. Like a government can't be.
I'm the type of person
of its own.
I just mean like you like. If you're watching the non-Vaughn streams, and I know you've like about like Ask Yourself and Avi, and like you watch some of their debates or whatever, like obviously it's not going to be like an Ask Yourself Avi debate in the sort of merits of some of the philosophical stuff, but like they if you enjoy those types of conversations, you're likely to also be the person that can be at least mildly entertained by the Candace Owens, Andrew Wilson conversation.
Health or ability to act on its own volition of the interests of the people. If there are these enormously wealthy people who are going to deploy their resources to influence the government or to threaten, various government entities.
So I'm kind of two minds about this. On one hand, I totally agree. It's impossible to deny that the amount of wealth concentration.
Hold on, this was the best part. I showed it on stream earlier, but real and true. Don't fact check. Thank you, Microsoft Edge, for being the shittiest fucking thing ever. Andrew Wilson goes off on Candace Owens. Tax reform since 1986 have incentivized firms to restructure from C Corps to S Corps and reclassify wage compensation to profits. Along with the rise in non-corporate partnerships and growing role of stock-based compensation for workers, this accounts for most of the supposed decline in the labor share of income. I can't believe Andrew Wilson. Can't believe Andrew Wilson has read I don't remember the authors of the paper. The Human Capitalist paper. There's another paper that talks about the S Corp to C Corp specifically, that mechanism.
We're seeing right now is having socially harmful effects. I mean, Roosevelt said, it's only natural that people so rich could reach out and try and control the government itself. He did this in his economic royalist speech, I think. But on the other hand, I like, having my little sole proprietorship here. One day I'd like to hire editors to edit my videos for me because I'm not very good at it and I could spend more time writing. I'd like to, make some money. I'd like to run my little business here. Is there a way to square these?
Gotta go to the video editing co-op now, Ryan. Fortunately for you.
Ideas within liberal socialism, or
gotta contract the YouTube video editing workers cooperative.
How do we square this circle? Because I feel like for me, there's an important individual liberty component there, and
hold on,
me being able to kind of.
Do y'all see that dot? Did you see Chomsky and Woodward debate? No, I didn't watch it.
Start my little business.
Yeah. Okay. I was just making sure that's not on my monitor. I thought it might be a dead pixel for a second. Okay, you guys don't worry. If you see this little dot right here.
Yes.
Didn't watch it. Yeah, I didn't watch it. I saw that he was on it, but that's yeah.
Typically market socialists.
Dude, dude, what?
In that they think that some
is it good? Should I watch it?
Private ownership of the means of production is fine, so long as workers have say in the firms that they work at, right?
As long as you pull those on and give your editor a graphics card, you're in the clear.
This is really well expressed in a new book that's coming out that I wrote a review of the book Principle called The Blueprint by economist Mike Beggs, philosopher Ben Bridges, and then Jackman founder Bosman Sukara. And you can find echoes of this or anticipations of this in Mills and Rawls, et cetera, et cetera. The idea is that markets have a place and private firms have a place, particularly in the commodity sector, because we don't want the government providing absolutely everything for everyone. Not only is that a major threat to liberty, but the government is particularly good at providing a lot of commodities for people. But if you have a sufficiently large firm,
can we drop Matt McManus into the TikTok debate speed?
there are also a lot of reasons why it is that workers should have a say in how that firm is managed. If you have 100 people at your beck and call who are dependent upon you for their livelihood, there are a lot of good liberal reasons to think that that's deeply problematic. Now, I think that there are empirical questions we can ask ourselves about at what point a firm becomes sufficiently large, or there's enough employees working at a firm that we should transition to something like a worker-based cooperative, or to form stronger unions. I don't think that if you're just running your own little private business with your brother, that you definitely need to start making these kind of considerations. I don't think a little girl who's running a lemonade stand with her siblings is exactly what Jay Cohen was worried about, when he was concerned with domination. But at a certain threshold, I think it becomes pretty obvious that considerations of power, considerations of exploitation do kick in, and that's where we need to start thinking about those kinds of transitions. But I think that again, this isn't something.
Can we make him bite the economy bullet at least about the ideal? The ideal social system is all cooperatively owned, besides the single sole proprietorships. I remember that was a big. How long did they spend talking about that in the Destiny Economy debate? Way too fucking long.
Something that theory alone can settle it. Really.
Why do these fuck ass libs keep having these socialist goons on? We did this every 3 to 4 years and nothing comes of it. Minecraft me? I don't know.
As well as just democratic input, right?
This is at least okay. I wonder, can we get Matt McManus to comment on the DSA discourse?
So different countries, different cities, different populations are going to have different. They're going to come to different views, and they're going to change their mind too, right? In liberal socialism, it is a liberal democratic socialism, and so the key word being democratic. So we're going to have different political parties that have different views of these sorts of things. Some are going to be more conservative than others, more.
Socialists will make the conservative Republican Party say you only have to be socialist at 1,000 workers instead of 500 workers.
Liberal, more green.
This is democracy under socialism.
For my part, and maybe this is the libertarian, quote unquote part, is I find a lot of important freedom in economic freedom. I think that entrepreneurial creativity is important, and I think that that's not something that I ever really want to leave by the wayside. I think that is I think it's crucial. I think that
I think you can make a case that, I think it's wrong, but it's easy for me to see how you can make the case that economic freedom on the whole is somehow enhanced by collective ownership and things of that nature. But probably, what do you say, business creativity or whatever?
Creativity is important. I find a lot of important freedom in economic freedom. I think that entrepreneurial creativity is important, and I think that that's
I think entry costs are just straight up higher under a co-op system or collective system as opposed to a traditional firm, right? There's just no, I don't know, there's any getting around that.
Something that I ever really want to leave by the wayside. I think that is, I think it's crucial.
I'll give one more quick example because it's fun, right? So some listeners might be familiar with Robert Nozick's famous Wilt Chamberlain thought experiment, right? The classic thought experiment in Anarchy State and Utopia that kind of makes a case for why it is that people who get wealthy because of free exchange or because of their kind of entrepreneurial go-getting, they should be able to keep their money. So very briefly, Nozick's thought experiment is you have a basketball player, Wilt Chamberlain. He lives in a society where wealth has been completely evenly distributed. But then Wilt says, look, I'm going to go play basketball, but in return, I'm setting up a little box, and I want people to put quarters in my box, and then I'll play basketball. Everybody wants to see Wilt play basketball. They put quarters in his box. Very quickly, Wilt becomes rich. And Nozick's question is, well, what's wrong with that, right? Wilt doesn't seem to have done anything to anyone that you could take issue with. He got rich because he provided a service that everyone liked. Maybe you could say culturally, people.
The difference is Will doesn't have the command over the
but forcing them to listen to philosophers,
other workers.
And, watching basketball would seem too untoward. And personally, I don't think that liberal socialists would have any problem with Wilt as a basketball player, right? If Wilt gets wealthy because he plays basketball well, then good for him, right? He might be underpaid for all that reason. My problem becomes when Wilt Chamberlain decides to retire at 40, goes and buys a factory in his local town. The workers at his factory want to unionize, and he threatens them with taking his factory to Mexico, and then goes to the local mayor, says, I need a really big donation to your recent political campaign. So you're going to make sure that you help me stop these people from unionizing because that's going to eat into my profits, right? Now, at what point Wilt Chamberlain, the rich basketball player, turns into Wilt Chamberlain, the domineering exploitative capitalist? I don't think there's a clear cutoff point. Maybe it was when he bought the factory. Maybe it's when he decided to advance anti-worker regulation. But it seems pretty clear to me that there is a crossing into that threshold. And it's when he does start to cross out that threshold that liberal socialism would take issue with what he's doing and say, this is where we need to empower workers.
I would actually take a step back from that even, and I would say that when Wilt Chamberlain, we should really, of course, update this to Taylor Swift, right? Taylor Swift just, we've equalized wealth across society, and Taylor Swift is offering to sing if people put in with inflation. We're not talking about quarters anymore. We're talking about $10 bills. And so, because we've eliminated Ticketmaster, okay? So with Taylor,
that's utopian.
It's way too utopian. So with Taylor Swift has become ultra rich. She has done nothing wrong. She's only done good. She's brought a lot of happiness to society.
I would consider Taylor Swift private jet.
And there is no problem with it, right? And then even if she doesn't, retire and open up a factory and do any of these things that you suggested that.
The worst thing about Taylor Swift is she donates to ineffective charities. Okay, she donates to fucking school for deaf kids. Oh shit! What was the story with that? There was like a poll, I think, for which school Taylor Swift was. 1 second, Metro. Taylor Swift was supposed to, not Metro, Momentum, perform at, and they voted for like a deaf school. I'm not misremembering that, right? Taylor Swift. Deaf school. God. Yeah. Online contest by Taylor Swift sponsors was won by Boston's Horace Mansko for the deaf. After internet using the 4chans and Reddit rigged. What do you mean rigged? Rigged to vote. Swift did not perform a concert there, but instead disqualified the school over the voting manipulation and gave them $50,000, $10,000 in instruments and concert tickets for the students. Should have given it to the Shrimp Welfare Project. That's all I'm saying. And the Waffle House girl is good. I don't know what you want me to say.
That Will Chamberlain might do. Even then, just the chance that she could is enough, right? She has that power, and it's.
She has a. She did do the. I said this earlier on stream, but the inflation has gone up a bajillion percent, and minimum wage has been stagnant. But other than that,
far too great a power, right? And it's just like we worry about. We do checks and balances across different branches of government, and it's the same idea with wealth. If you have a large concentration of power, whether it's from wealth or it's from television airtime or access to big platforms or something like that. Any kind of wealth needs to be offset. Any kind of power imbalance or power concentration needs to be offset or guarded against in some way.
Yeah, no, what I was going to say when Matt was going through the example is the issue with Nozick's example is he wants us to think in very straightforward terms of you do something that's very unobjectionable that people just like, and you're wealthy. What does being wealthy mean? Being wealthy means implicitly, like you get all the comforts of wealth. You get a big house. You get a nice boat if you want. You can travel a lot. Whatever it is. You're mostly thinking in wealth in terms of like consumption terms and economic terms. But wealth is power, right? So he doesn't have to buy a factory. He can buy a media company. He doesn't have to buy a factory or a media company. He can just become a big campaign donor to Donald Trump. He doesn't have to. If he has enough, his money is probably still making more money because it's been invested. Like he can spend a lot and still have a lot and use it purely through influence. So like when it's framed purely as does someone deserve to be wealthy, and we're thinking of wealthy as you have a comfortable lifestyle and you don't have to worry about feeding your kids or something for doing something that people like, then the answer seems obviously there's nothing wrong with that, right? But the issue that I think libertarians and many people who are scared of taxing the rich and things never really grapple with is just wealth is not just about your lifestyle. It's not just about the fact that some people are deprived while you are not, and that just seems inherently unfair. It is also about power. Having wealth means that you are.
I think you guys know, so I'm going to say, one, it's just like, I think empirically, it's just, they're not necessarily making claims here about how much worse the problem is causing or whatever, but it's just like not the case that like wealth and or income inequality, both within countries and between countries, has like exploded or whatever. I think people oftentimes just kind of greatly exaggerate the extent to which that happens. And then I just don't think that the best evidence is like that supportive of the thesis. Like there's like, this is a good post by Tiva Reuter, who eventually said will publish this as a paper. I think he said it's awaiting publication or whatever, where he has some other test. And it's just not the case that wealth or income inequality are particularly good predictors of like democratic erosion within a country, but other things like state capacity and polarization are. I forget the exact test thing. We can read a little bit of it. Download the Rowan 6 dataset because I wanted to see just visually, perhaps only for descriptive purposes, what's going on over time with cases of democratic erosion compared to non-eroding countries. Are there any increases in inequality right before erosion, or perhaps in the years leading up to it? Is it just that countries are on a higher inequality level are, regardless of the trend, more likely to erode with compared to those with low levels of inequality? I've sentenced America to 40 years of subsistence farming and the plague. This is it. Don't you know what's wrong with that? Medieval peasants actually only worked 1 hour a week, and the rest of the time they were free, and they didn't pay any taxes. Oh. More importantly, if we try to create matching sets of countries such that we are looking at eroders and non-eroders with otherwise similar traits, development, polarization, state capacity, etc., what's going on? On the Ross-Stokes hypothesis, I'm expecting to see non-eroding matches to be much less unequal compared to eroders even after matching in all other relevant characteristics. The idea is that if high inequality really is the key difference separating democracies that end up eroding compared to democracies that don't, then we should probably see this inequality gap between the two sets of countries pre-erosion. Of course, we shouldn't just naively compare eroders to non-eroders because there are many other differences between them besides inequality. Non-eroders will naturally be less unequal. However, if we compare eroders specifically to those non-eroders, which are otherwise similar on to eroders on many traits but for inequality, then we'd have something to work with. If it turns out there's no big inequality difference, that's a bit iffy for the thesis. But if an inequality difference does show, such that comparable non-eroders are much less unequal than eroders, then that would go some way in corroborating the idea, namely that it isn't high inequality in particular, not just poverty or low state capacity, that matters for erosion. Here's what I get. Note the scale. Gini coefficient y-axis. Whoa. What's going on? Eroders in red are much more unequal in levels of never eroded democracy. That's gray line. That's expected and tells us nothing interesting. 2. Eroders have a flat inequality trajectory in the decade before erosion. That's a bit weird, okay, but perhaps inequality is just background risk condition for erosion, such that high inequality raises the risk, while low inequality level reduces it. It could be levels, not changes, that are important, which is fair enough. Crucially, eroders are just a bit more unequal, in level terms, than matched non-eroders, blue line. While that might be a problem for the thesis, in plainer terms, democracies which end up eroding have roughly the same inequality level and trend as matched democracies that don't end up eroding. And here's an analysis which includes both never eroders as well as not yet eroders as donors for matching. This is in some ways a weaker test, but it also has some upsides, but the difference is again very small, even smaller. Now, does this matching exercise really tell us anything? What if the matching-based procedure simply isn't appropriate? More practically speaking, what if we carried out a falsification test and used the matching-based analysis on some variables for which we're much more confident should matter in democratic erosion? If possible, it should be something that was also indicated as important by the Rao/Stokes paper itself. One candidate could be state capacity. Clearly, democratic erosion should be easier to carry out in democracies with lower state capacity, though it actually only shows a mixed signal on the paper. An even better candidate is political polarization. Is again theoretically very likely, but more importantly, the Rao-Stokes paper finds it to statistically rival inequality in terms of effect size and significance. Now, if we do this and find small gaps again, then perhaps we're just generating false nulls, but if the expected gap grows, then maybe the inequality null is on something. Here it is with inequality in panel A for comparison. Oh, it's a lot bigger. Holy cow. Even as eyeballing it, the difference is stark. To make the vertical distances comparable across panels, each panel spans the same amount of variation, i.e. 2 full sample country years and standard deviations for that variable. Eroders and matched non-eroders are almost indistinguishable in terms of inequality, but they clearly moderately differ with respect to state capacity, especially in the last few years before erosion happens, and they strongly differ as polarization is concerned, again, especially in the few years before erosion starts. Here are the more precise numbers so that we're not just eyeballing. The standard deviation differences are 0.12, 0.28, and 0.49 respectively. See below, if we're restricting matching solely to never eroders, which is arguably more appropriate, the SDs are 0.20, non-significant, 30, non-sig, and 49, 0.49. Wow. I think he said somewhere he's working on a paper for this that has more detail. This is a paper I have under review currently, so I can't talk about it too much. Oh, what's up, Easy Bunny? I don't understand how shareholders voting Elon a pay package is the richest 1% hoarding all the wealth, or how the alternative is that money would find its way to nurse salaries rather than shareholders. A society basing compensation on moral worth would not be a very prosperous society. Well, true.
Or socially powerful. It's leverage. And we have to think about how we live. Is it possible to live as equal?
We haven't considered that as power, that is leverage.
When there's a few people that get above a certain threshold of percentage wealth of the country, over the rest.
I assume, well, why is the solution, worker democracy or whatever we want to say, and not just making it illegal to, spend money on politics? Why is the solution socialism and not, what we see in other liberal democracies where they make it a lot harder for money to buy power?
Well, I don't think that
Okay, Ryan Truk.
Would necessarily be a bad first step, but I think we need to go further, right? So there's a few things I want to say.
That's not a bad first step, but the fundamental problem is actually them having control over the means of production, because if you want democracy everywhere else, why don't you want democracy in the workplace?
First, I'll start by responding to Adam by quoting the esteemed educational institute PragerU, right? One of the world's finest universities, as we all knew, right? Because I think that one of the problems really lies in how people understand capitalism, both in the United States and elsewhere, right? PragerU conveys this very kind of pseudo-Smithian story about what capitalism is and their defenses of it, saying this is just about little girls who decide that they want to sell flowers, and then big government comes along and says you can't sell flowers, and any flowers you sell, we're going to tax you and take some of that money, and you got to make sure again that you give your brother a voice if he's working for you. And the kind of construal is that this is also absurd, right? Just let the little girl sell flowers. I don't think any liberal socialist again has a problem with small-scale entrepreneurship, or to Adam's point, people making a little bit of extra money in order to buy themselves a nice pool, right? Or putting a little money aside so that they can travel to France. All of that is well and good. The problem arises when you see concentrations of wealth that are just so vulgar and extreme that people will inexorably translate their wealth into political power, because that's what we've seen time and time again over the course of human history. And there are very good liberal reasons to be deeply concerned about this, including from a liberal socialist perspective.
Like swords? And I feel like that doesn't answer Ryan's question still.
Just to cite one example, John Rawls in Justice...
Other than just saying, but Ryan is inevitable. How you consider it is inevitable.
Fairness restatement, when he's defending liberal socialism as the proper regime, says welfare state capitalism is not enough because it still allows extreme inequalities that should be unpermissible from a liberal standpoint. But amongst the most impermissible inequalities it permits are inequalities of political power. The reason being, of course, that if you allow economic power and economic...
But his question is, why does liberal socialism solve that better than just restrictions on money and politics?
Value to accrue in a few hands. Inevitably, these people are going to use it to purchase political clout for them.
Did you see Leopold 35 bill lost recently? I did not.
Themselves. We see that time.
Leopold.
And Rawls says this is incompatible with the liberal commitment that we should all hold to this idea of equal citizenship and getting fair value from everyone's political rights. Now, to Ryan's question about, well, why not just impose certain kinds of regulations, right? Roll back the clock on Citizens United, put the people in their place who want to buy elections, all this stuff. I think that's a perfectly good first suggestion, but I don't think it's going far enough.
Should have used Claude Finance. What happened? His AI hedge fund. Oh shit, he was using Claude Finance. Situational awareness went from a $45 billion peak in early July to about $10 billion by late July after leveraged bets in AI infrastructure, stocks unwound, and margin calls. Oh no. Chad.
And the reason is that these are very, very long-standing problems, both in American
wealth inequality solved
and elsewhere. Just to give a couple of quick citations here, Martin Gilens, in his book Affluence and Influence, points out that since the 1970s, when you really started to see the heyday of the welfare state recede in the background, the wealthy have gained more and more control in this country, to the point now where he points out that ordinary people have very little say in the kind of policies that are enacted, whereas the wealthy have an enormous amount of say, and that's true regardless of what political party is in office. His findings were also reaffirmed by Thomas Piketty.
Thomas Piketty.
The control elsewhere. First suggestion, but I don't think it's going far enough. And the reason is that these are very, very long-standing problems, both in American democracy and elsewhere. Just to give a couple of quick citations here, Martin Gilens, in his book Affluence and Influence, points out that since the 1970s, when you really started to see the heyday...
I don't think I'm familiar with the exact source.
Of the welfare state. Affluence and Influence.
Martin Gilens. Affluence and Influence. Oh, wait, this guy. Oh, wait, sorry. Wait, I do recognize that. I recognize that game. He's the guy from, the 2014 paper. Oh, my God. He's the guy from, Watching Killings of Benjamin Page 2014, the Princeton 2014, the U.S. is an oligarchy paper. Oh, let's go. Listen, maybe being biased here, but I think I might be a little skeptical of whatever he reports in that book when he wrote this paper. Bad paper? Yeah, famously bad paper. The R squared in the paper is like 0.07. And it's like almost equal if you just like flip the explanatory independent variable. It's crazy. It's horrible. I think I know Noah Smith has an article about it. There's a Vox article about it. Had a feeling businesses work on a socialism or in a co-op land, like to sell all their shit to another co-op. Yeah, we have the FDIC, but for co-ops. I imagine it'd have to be a something like that, because you wouldn't want, or I don't know, maybe they'll say like, oh, even though the workers all have like equity in the company, we'll just have a strong enough welfare state to like offset that. I feel like at that point you would have like some genuine like moral hazard though. So like there's a Noah Smith article about it. The empirical evidence for the belief is incredibly thin. It mostly rests on one single paper by Martin Gillens and Benjamin Page. This paper is cited again and again by people who are asserting the U.S. as an oligarchy. The BBC even reported that Gillens, I keep mispronouncing it, in Page's paper demonstrated the U.S. was not a democracy. This is a complete misinformation. Fox is still in Matthew explain why in which this might be the thing. I explain why in 2016 article, and I have little to add in its masterful and succinct debunking, so I'll just quote him here. Since its initial release, the Gillens Page paper's findings have been targeted in 3 separate debunkings. Cornell professor Peter Enns and recent Princeton PhD graduate Omar Bashir and a team of 3 researchers, UT Austin grad student Jay, all these people have all taken a look at Gillens and Page's underlying data and found that their analysis doesn't hold up. The researchers critiquing the paper found that middle-income Americans and rich Americans actually agree on an overwhelming majority of topics. Out of the 1,700 bills in the Gillens Page dataset, majorities of the rich and middle class agree on 1,594. That means the groups agree on 89.6% of bills. That leaves only 185 bills on which the rich and middle class disagree. And even there, the disagreements are small. Bashir and Barnum, Soroka, and don't know how to pronounce that one. Was listen. Something like that. I don't know. Found that on these 185 bills, the rich got their preferred outcome 53% of the time, and the middle class got what they wanted 47% of the time. The difference between those is not, between the two is not statistically significant. The researchers found that the rich's win rate for economic issues, where their disagreement is 57.1% compared with 51.1% for social issues. There's a difference, but not a robust one. Bashir paper prods at Gillens' data even more and finds a number of holes. Bashir concludes that strong support from the middle class is about as good of a predictor of a policy being adopted as strong support from the rich. In the original data set, change is enacted 47% of the time, that median income Americans favor it at a rate of 80% or more. Yet, change is enacted 52% of the time, that elites favor it at that rate. Bashir also notes that Gillens and Page model explains very little. Its R squared, is immediately 0.074. That is 7.4% of the variation in policy outcomes is determined by the measured views of the rich, poor, and interest groups put together. So even if the rich control the bulk of that, and Bashir argues they did not, the absolute amount of sway over policy that represents is quite limited indeed. I think the whole model is almost no explanatory power. I think there was one of the researchers just tried to get the R squared from the opposite results, how much does the poor control policy, and it seems to be basically about as good as a predictor.
Points out that since the 1970s,
I think Smith is too cozy with the SCC set personally.
when you really start.
What are we on about? Oh, Noah Smith. I think I grew off Noah Smith when I read his Friedman article filled with mistruths and lies. Oh no. The SCC SSC set personally. I'm gonna know what SSC is when you tell it to me.
Start to see the heyday of the welfare state recede in the background. The wealthy have gained more and more control in this country.
Slate, yeah, fuck yeah, Alex. Sorry, not Alex. Fuck, I know his name. Scott Alexander. That's what it is. Yeah.
To the point now where he points out that
And the
people have very little say in the country.
multiple people who write for Starslate Codex, but
policies that are enacted, whereas the wealthy have an enormous amount of say, and that's true regardless of what political party is in office. His findings were also reaffirmed by Thomas Piketty, not in a book that everybody knows, Capital and the 21st Century, but his really big book, Capital and Ideology, where Piketty points out across the board in most Western democracies, the wealthy have far more say in how states are governed than ordinary people. And then you don't even need to look at left of center social scientists to make this point. In their 2018 book, Eatwell and Goodwin, who are pretty conservative social scientists.
Scott Alexander was a eugenicist, yes.
Lost recently, and I was happy about this, but he pointed out.
I never. I don't know all the Scott Alexander lore. Okay, I know there's quite a lot of controversy over some of the old posts there, but I don't know the details.
They pointed out that in the United Kingdom, one of the major reasons why people turn to populists is
Isn't he? I mean, this might be connected to the eugenics thing or whatever. Either him or like some of the writings on there were like very much like race realists or race realist adjacent stuff as well.
Populist is the perception that ordinary people have very little say in how they're governed. Plutocratic elites have almost all the say in how the country is run. And Eatwell and Goodwin say there's a lot of truth to this, right? People are not wrong to perceive things this way. So when you have tendencies that are this long-standing, this replicable, I think that you need a little bit more dramatic action than just turning back the clock on Citizens United and sitting there and saying, we need to put a tax on the wealthy. We really need to empower ordinary people long-term to have a say in how their own countries are run. And I don't think that just cosmetic reforms are going to be sufficient for that at this juncture.
Right. So I think the question.
Ryan didn't even appeal to like the U.S. pre-Citizens United or anything. He appealed to like other countries, and the only response Republicans had at that point was like, well, Thomas Piketty said that in other countries it's the same. That I like don't take very seriously. Yes, but specifically he has old posts elsewhere off SEC where he endorses eugenics. Oh no, oh boy.
Question that I'm getting at is like, why is worker democracy going to translate into political power?
For what reason? What type and for what reasons?
Power. Like, why is giving people a vote on who their manager is going to be going to translate into having more influence come election time?
Well, I think there are a few things to say about that.
Well, you'll reduce inequality because everyone all the capital is socially owned.
Right. First off, I think that it's important to do this.
You reduce the power of the bosses.
Because I think democracy is as important in the workplace as it is at the state level. Right?
True.
But the second point about what the relationship between the two is in the heyday of social democracy, particularly in Western Europe and Northern Europe, there was a very tight association between the labor movement and labor unions and the very social democratic parties that tried to democratize their states. A really good example of this would be, of course, the Swedish Social Democratic Party and the Norwegian Labour Party. Both.
Okay, Lord Drop, let's go. Among the good ideas to draw from reactionaries, Alexander finds eugenics. With his rejection of coercion, Alexander has reassured us that he would not march undesirables into death factories. At rifle point is cold comfort as one entangles what he does mean. He brings up eugenics in more than just this bizarre aside, so we can try to make sense of things. On his live journal back in 2012, he asked, is this the website I'm familiar with? No. I'm familiar with, I think it's still up, the old... It wasn't even called Starslate Codex, right? Wasn't it, Astral Codex or whatever? So if you had to design a eugenics program, how would you do it? Be creative. I'm asking because I'm working in writing about a fictional society that practices eugenics. I want them to be interesting and sympathetic and not to immediately pattern match to a dystopian that kills everyone who doesn't look exactly alike. To be generous, contrarian science fiction world building as a whetstone for thinking about principles has a noble tradition, which includes satire, cautionary thought experiments, and visualizing dystopian outcomes. But one must be wary with topics like eugenics, where bad actors speaking in bad faith do a lot of just asking questions as a veil over the monstrous answers they have in mind. Alexander is not treading nearly carefully enough. The discussion community does not respond with mortified to what they should. Instead, one commentator replies with, paying undesirables to be sterilized is happening. There's a charity that pays drug addicts $200 to be Oh, I know this. I think this was in North Carolina. Okay, too many requests. Project prevention seems like a good idea to me. How about a benign eugenics regime that is about preserving diversity of human mental types while minimizing disease? Squid 314 responds to this with none of the pointed questions one should. Cast human capital, arrange management, undesirables. Instead, he is enthusiastic about his creepy real-world organization. I actually think I'm probably going to donate to that charity next time I get money. I'd feel better if it was something more reversible. ew. And of course, yes, this does go where one expects their toxic eugenics to go. Yeah. Right. I'm more familiar with this. Fuck that stuff. Because I think this was in that book, What Money Can't Buy.
Which identified as socialist, but with a lot of liberal inclinations.
Oh, damn. I got it backwards. Never mind.
Mobilized into action and got a lot of their ground level clout from their support for unions. And of course, this all climaxed with the Great Compact of the 1930s, where they were able to actually strike a meaningful blow against oligarchic control of the countries and give unions and workers a lot more say in how their workplace were managed. And in return, workers supported the Social Democrats in introducing reforms at the state level that further democratized the country. For instance, securing work.
Well, okay. I'm gonna check up on our little buddies. And if they're not doing anything interesting, which I don't think they will be, I might gotta go, folks, because I do have work tomorrow. But I should also. I said I was going to stream yesterday, then I lied. But today, when I say I'll stream tomorrow, I won't be lying, guys. Not this time. Don't worry.
Like,
Don't.
it doesn't matter, right?
Laid that fucking pipe.
True.
Partner in a law firm. It's international too.
That's not the same. Obama gets to be Destro.
Are you saying that
Learn foreign policy? Too much opportunity cost.
I've seen some heat, actual temperature, and humidity combos.
Oh, this guy. I reached out to that guy to debate, but he said he didn't want to.
Long enough, let's
He
fuck
needs it
them
to
up
stop.
even more. Let's have them stay for another
Trust.
250 days, which is a
Do you know
record.
why? Do you know why he says stuff like that? Because he's not talking to the military. He's not talking.
Over here, the consumer price index for all urban consumers
Consumer price
increased
index?
0.1% on a seasonal adjusted basis
my
in
shit.
July after falling 0.4% in June. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today. Over the last 12 months, the all items index increased 3.4% before seasonal adjustment. And then it gets into how it's year over year. Why are you
that
doing this
shit,
and you have
Bill.
15,000 followers?
I'm aware. I'm trying to have a conversation, and I
Me
keep
too.
getting cut
We're
off.
not insulting each other or
I keep
anything.
getting cut off. It's like
I
whenever I try
Is he
to
the
speak,
healthcare economist, Easy Money?
one of you has to like open your mouth.
Okay,
right?
fine. I'll
So-
mute. Aaron, you mute. So we'll give him a chance so that way I'm not, accused of anything. Go ahead.
So I know, like I tried to explain it. I tried going.
No, he's a British academic who was apparently found dead. Never mind. Wait, who am I thinking of? wait, there's a I swear to God, there's a Jason A who's like a healthcare economist. I'm thinking of this guy. I'm thinking of Jason Abeluk. No, I don't know who this guy is. He was caught for plagiarism. I feel like I might have heard about that because I remember there being controversy. Was he like at the same time as the Harvard president Claudine Gay? Was that her name? That got caught. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the details. Public firestorm over Mr. Otto's career erupted after a blog post accused him of plagiarism in his dissertation and embellishing his personal story. It was written by a scholar known for his work suggesting that black people were genetically predisposed to be less intelligent than white people. Incredible. Scrutiny intensified ahead of publication of Mr. Arde's memoir on Tuesday by Simon and don't know how to pronounce that, as journalists have found more inconsistencies in his story. He resigned from Cambridge last week. Well, it's inconsistent in his story. Finds impossible data in his work. Oh no. For what it's worth, this is because he used UK libel laws to silence the actual reporters looking into his case, so only the crazies kept at it. Oh boy. Oh no, he's the black UK academic who fabricated. Oh, you're just telling me who it was. Nathan Cough nuts caught him. Yeah, Substack post by Nathan Campos, an academic who was previously enrolled in a free speech row at Cambridge after he suggested in a blog post that in a meritocracy there'd be close to 0 black professors at Harvard. Wow. Okay, who was talking about CPI?
See month to month to see, okay, June it was 4.3%, July it's no, excuse me, it's like 4.3%, June is 3.4%. That doesn't mean that inflation has gone down, because remember, when you're seeing June at 4.3%,
They're confusing rates and levels.
Hey, the prices in June 2026 are 3% higher than it was in June 2025. Okay? So when he's looking at this chart that is showing him, like Bill said, every category unadjusted 12 months, it is positive. Oh, except for medical care commodities, that's negative 2.7%, and used cars and trucks is down 1.5%. Every other indexy has gone up, which means inflation.
Have you considered that when inflation is down, some of the subcomponents are up?
It is not what Trump said he was going to do. The Fed wants inflation to be on average about 2%, and almost nothing on here. Well, actually, there's 2 categories that are below 2% inflation. Everything else is 2.5 or higher, which means this economy, his economic policies again are failing. He doesn't know how to read interpret what he's reading.
Well, all right, so I know how to read exactly what I was reading. So when you have a negative in front of a number, for example, an energy in June of 2026, that is deflation. You had a deflation of 5.7% for the month of June. A deflation of 1.5% in the month of July. You also had energy commodities, a deflation of 9.5% in June, as well as a negative 2.9% deflation in July.
Yeah, but how does that benefit people?
Well, actually, Bill, before you follow his bouncing ball, can you please look up the word deflation and tell us what the definition of that for in economic terms? What is deflation in economic terms?
Prices in that category fell.
Your name is not Bill.
Hold on.
Your name is not Bill. I'm talking.
TikTok debaters are really the highest intellectual people out there.
Lift, and then it's like a litany of fucking bedwetting in all the comments. And that's actually super fucked up and low-key misogynistic and ableist to say that. Like just with all people with hammer sickles in their name, and you're like, damn, the left is like legit cooked. But it's like, I never really saw those people as my comrades anyways. And it's like, don't worry. Don't let those people
the fuck is that greasy behind
let you down.
Oh, that's the monitor? I think it is. This guy's an insane Stalinist. Radiohead. What's it? There's a name for the bear. It's like a. You're gonna look up monster. Minotaur. Minotaur. Something. This guy. Aristotle wishes he could have participated in such a high-minded debate. I know. Yeah, it's that little guy, and he's watching TV. Don't call him a monster. That's mean. That's mean.
Military. And even wrote.
Isn't that kind of what what's its face was insinuating?
They're gonna have a military.
Okay. Maybe if
Crazy.
there's
I hope
something
y'all see
interesting.
it. Go. What do you have to say, sir?
Yeah, no. So I said it exactly that we had deflation in those months, and we still have Miss Definitions at top trying to correct me, even though she's still wrong in what she's talking about. Was that so hard to understand?
Yeah, are you done
Okay,
now?
thank
Can
you.
Philomeno speak?
Can she
Can
talk now?
Philomeno speak now?
I
Are
mean,
you
sure.
done?
If you want to bring any intellect to the
Are you
table, I'd love
done?
it.
Okay,
Are
thank you.
done? Thank you,
If you would like to
beloved.
bring any intellect to the table.
All right, thank you so much. I'm glad she could talk
deflation-
now.
Yes. So deflation is a sustained drop in price levels across the
There you go,
entire
Fandy.
economy. That is what deflation would be.
Oh, the glowy guy.
Democrats will like sue people or sue the state to get people off the ballot. Yeah, they manipulate it a little bit. They're like undemocratic in that way, the Democrats. But if enough people didn't vote Democrat, the party would go away. Do you vote for the PSL? I don't vote.
Incredible.
I don't vote, but I did campaign for the PSL. I was liking and retweeting all their stuff.
Do I want to?
It's called Kotume. But yeah,
What's my
I
hottest
do
political
not
take?
think. I think that you can get minor iterative reforms through electoralism, through electoral reforms. But I do not think that there in America there is a revolutionary pathway via the ballot
Is there
box.
such thing as deflation? It is not recession.
They have change value to be intangible.
yeah.
What does we see?
Usually,
The way that
recessions
two-party
are
system works is people
deflationary.
voting for the people in their interests.
Talk about healthcare? Maybe.
What? You think people
Did you
vote
reject
for the
me?
Democrats or the Republicans because they see the Democrats or the Republicans as being arbiters of their interest?
What if I can says comrade run? This is good advice.
Or do they do that
What about a
because
white
of
girl?
fear-mongering around a handful of wedge issues? Kotume means custom or tradition. Most people just blindly vote for the
There you go,
party.
Vandy, yeah.
I think most people, like Republicans, vote because they're afraid that Democrats are commies and they're going to open the borders and put kitty litter boxes in bathrooms and make all their kids transgender and stuff. They're tilting at scaremongered windmills. I'm Canadian, by the way, so maybe different in the U.S. They released a pressure valve American vote against their self-interest every election, like literally historically. It's been a thing that they do every election ever since there's been elections. Voting laws in a lot of states impose costly ballots. That is true. I do think that better.
TikTok's telling me to join someone else.
I low-key think the voting system should be federal. I think that was like an oversight. I think leaving up elections to the states really opened it up for a lot of chicanery.
Chicanery?
The masses demand you speak to non-fond? I don't even know who that is. Let me up, King? No. We're not taking any requests up. Constitutional costumes are the unspoken rules. Constitutional costumes.
Shit, my
I
bad.
don't even know
My
how- I'm
bad,
not familiar
King.
with this term. Are the
Request.
unspoken rules.
Don't be weird, 18
Two-party
plus.
system lobbying makes it. I'm not
Request
interested
on.
in talking about voting. I don't know how I got snookered into.
Okay. Does he know what a republic means? I don't know. Oh, I accidentally clicked on the wrong thing. I just exposed me watching AOC thirst traps, guys. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. I'll be live tomorrow, maybe in the morning before 2, otherwise sometime after like 10. And tomorrow I have some more adapters coming in that make the TikTok stuff even better because like I said, now I can use my regular microphone to go through that. It's easier now and it's not annoying. And then I also have tomorrow I'll be able to use my regular wired connection as well. But regardless, okay. I'll be streaming again tomorrow. I need to reach out to Caden again because he never replied to my last thing. And then maybe Pisco as well. I'll do that tonight. I'll reach out to them tonight, and then I'll what day is today's Saturday? Okay. Then I might be live again in the morning or tomorrow night. So yeah, head over to Sarah the Raising Tomato. Why not? Actually, the Trinity Bible debate sounds like some stupid shit. Okay, everyone else is doing stupid shit too, though. Okay, so head over to Sarah the Raging Tomato. Yeah, but live streaming, not lying this time when I say I'll be live tomorrow. Will be live tomorrow. Okay, you can cancel me if I'm not. So like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Appreciate it. Much love. Tell Sarah that she's cool as well.